We are online as well, so you can see all the cameras dotted around. My name is Lindsay Vickers. I work for MTD CNC and I'll be your host for the day. What excites me the most about today as well, and I've just found out, is the fact that there's so many females that are going to be coming up onto the stage today. I see all the females are getting excited by this. It's quite a change. You know, I've been in industry for probably about 8-9 years now, and you can really start seeing the shift and the change. And even when I've spoken to team members around, they're saying the same, so it's quite exciting. So whether you're watching online or you're here in person, you're not going to miss out on a thing. Later on, after this talk, we'll be taking you on a tour around the exhibition halls as well, so you're not going to miss out on anything, and the talks from this morning. So FANUC have assembled and lined up 37 exhibitors, all showcasing the latest in machine tool technology for you to see. There's injection moulding, robotics, automation, and so much more. So there's loads to see. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I know it sounds a bit silly, but they're all out there. You can learn from everybody downstairs. So just feel free to ask questions and have conversation. That's what an event like this is all about. So don't miss out also on the exciting WorldSkills Industrial Robotics National Finals, where talented competitors are battling it out for a chance to represent the UK in Shanghai in 2026. Now, if you don't know where that is, it's on the mezzanine floor next to the exhibition hall. So you're more than welcome to go upstairs and have a look and just, again, ask questions and talk to people there. Do make sure you explore FANUC's innovations as well. That's downstairs here, including their robo shots, the robo drills, the robo cut. And also don't forget, they've got at the bottom area, so as you go through the exhibition hall, they've got Meet the Engineers, and they're all talking about FANUC's aftercare, sales and service support that they give too. So again, it's about having conversations. For those of you who are joining us virtually, you can find the stream live on FANUC Europe's LinkedIn and also the FANUC UK Open House website, and then also on MTD CNC's YouTube channel. We're streaming the whole event. I think we've got about 146,000 subscribers now, so we're really excited about that. So yes, please join us. And if you're not here tomorrow and there's anything that you want to see, again, go online, have a watch. Something really important, and I know I'm going to get smiles from everyone now, lunch. It's at 12:30. Yeah, so that's an important time for your diary. Just to give you a heads up as the order of play today. And throughout the morning, we're going to have some insightful talks, some panel discussions. And as I say this, it's my favourite part of the event is the panel discussions, because it's quite interesting. Tom sat here yesterday and someone asked a question, and it was I can't remember exactly what the question was about, but they wanted an answer. And Tom kind of turned it round to say, so what is it that you would like us to do? Because we're listening. And I've never really seen that done. And I think that's really important. So if there's anything in your mind where you think, actually, I'm going to disagree with that, I want to have a bit of input, literally now is the time to do that. It's an open discussion. So let's kickstart the event with Tom Boucher, the Managing Director of FANUC UK.
Thanks, Lindsay. I think I turned it around yesterday because I didn't know the answer, but we'll ignore that one. Morning, everybody. Come on, louder than that. Morning, everybody. It's me that's up here being nervous, not you guys. It's easy down there. On behalf of FANUC and all of our exhibitors here, I wish you a very, very warm welcome to FANUC. It's great to see so many people here. This is a really important event in our diary because it showcases not just us, but our partners. It showcases what automation can do. It gives people insight into what manufacturing and engineering can offer as a career as well. So I think it's really important. It's great to see so many people here. From the very beginning, FANUC's mission was to blend quality, sustainability and innovation into all of our products. FANUC is basically a bunch of engineers in Japan who invent stuff, and that's as far as it goes. The rest of it just happened. The business just happened around it. If you've attended one of our shows before, you'll know we've done it slightly differently this year. We used to have this down in the training room and use a part of the showroom, part of the workshop as a showroom. We couldn't do it this year for the very good reason that we're too busy out there. We're too full, so I couldn't give up the space on the workshop. So that's a great idea, or a great problem to have. but I also know we've got much further to go as a country, but there's a lot further we can go. We're very proud of the partnerships we've built up with all of the people that you'll see down there. They're all listed on the board over there, and there's some facts and figures over there. If you get a chance, just familiarise yourself with some of those. I'm going to be giving you some facts and figures here now that might sound a bit dry, but I think it's important to get the message across about how important manufacturing is to UK. A lot of the figures I'll give you here are even from the MTC, the MTA, BARA, a lot of the trade associations, because the only way we're going to fix this problem in the UK is through collaboration. We're not going to do it. The OEMs are not going to do it. The academic institutions are not going to do it. Government's not going to do it. We need to all work together to make it happen. We're also part of the West Midlands Robotic Autonomous System Cluster. This is something that started with MTC over there a little while ago. All around the world where robotic clusters have started and automation systems have started, it's boosted productivity and it's created new opportunities. Just get my notes right. We also got to address that they do come with some challenges. They come with some workforce challenges. They come with some ethical considerations that we've got to take in when you start using automation. And the continued evolution of these clusters will certainly shape the way that industry works going forward. It's going to shape it in some quite profound ways. It has increased productivity, which is, something, it just speaks for itself. I don't have to go into that too much, but more productivity by academic institutions and industry working together fixes the problems quicker. So it reduces operational costs, it enhances competitiveness for companies. It creates new jobs. Automation will displace certain jobs. I mean, anybody that works in a robot company has heard it forever about robots taking jobs. They don't take jobs. They take some tasks, but they create more jobs. They create jobs in robotics design, in tech, in engineering, in AI, in maintenance service. Automation clusters foster the growth in specialised labour markets, so it does create more higher paid jobs than it gets rid of. And we can upskill people to do this. Sometimes we talk about upskilling and everybody thinks we're talking about apprentices. We're talking about the whole way through a company, from the CEO down to the most junior member of staff. If we don't convince the CEO, he's the one who holds the purse strings, we're not going to get automation. Doesn't matter how much we know at the bottom, it's not going to go in. So we need to make sure that everybody understands what it could do. It also attracts investment, which for me, for the West Midlands, is really important. What it will do is it attracts both public funding, private funding, and it brings people in together to create these clusters because they know the value of having you guys in here as a workforce for the future to go in there. I'm not going to mention anything political today. I'd nearly done it yesterday, but I'm keeping out of it. I think we've got to be positive about the new government. They are saying some of the right things. They are talking about having some strategies going into place. I think I'm a little bit disappointed about the amount of information that is around some of those strategies. But they are at least getting a strategy. I think previously for manufacturing there was no strategy. The government had a load of individual topics and called it a strategy, but I don't think they really looked up the definition of strategy. The UK slipped to 13th in the manufacturing table. We took great pleasure last year in going to 8th and overtaking France, and somehow this year we've slipped to 13th. There's a lot of reasons for that, political reasons, Brexit reasons, lots of reasons, but the ones that we can fix here are about automation and our low productivity. If we can fix the automation and low productivity, the other things we can't do anything about. The MTA, the Manufacturing Technologies Association, and Oxford Economics report recently really highlighted the importance of manufacturing to the UK. The way it's traditionally measured, manufacturing is about 8% of GDP for the UK. It's about 7% of employment as well. But if you take the indirect costs into it, if you take in the supply chain, if you take in the likes of us that support manufacturing, then it goes to 15% of GDP and 14% of employment. if you take the induced costs as well, the cost that we all spend on other stuff going out and about, it goes up to 23% of GDP. It's a massive number. So manufacturing has a huge impact, and I think it needs to be treated with the respect that it deserves, that we are 23% of GDP. It's huge. The first way of measuring it with the 8% is 184 billion it contributes to the GDP of this country. If you take the 23%, it's 518 billion. I mean, it's a sizable chunk of change in manufacturing. I don't think manufacturers, engineering, anything else gets the recognition it deserves on the 8%, so it's got no chance on the 23%, but we really need to get the government to understand that. I know automation is more than robots, but I give robot numbers now because it's the easiest numbers to collate. Robots are the same across the world. Sometimes machine tools and everything else differ, and there are specialised machines, etc. Robots are standard. So since Brexit, the robot installations in the UK are growing by 3%. Last year they grew by 3%. It was just over 2,500 units. 2,500 robots went into the UK. Anybody think that's good, bad, okay? No idea? No idea. If I tell you 2,500 units is about 1/10 of the robots that went into Germany. 1/10. So for everything we're doing, Germany's putting in 10. It's a crazy number. And I'm picking Germany because they're a close neighbour, not because they're the biggest. Germany are the third biggest in the world, but they're the biggest in Europe. The biggest in the world are the Republic of Korea, which I mistakenly called North Korea yesterday, but they had 1,012 robots per 10,000 employees. Singapore had 730 robots per 10,000 employees, and Germany has 415 robots per 10,000 employees. The worldwide average, including countries that are not seen as traditional manufacturers, is 151 robots per 10,000 workers. In the UK, we have 111 per 10,000 workers. We're not even at the worldwide average. So even though we're growing, we're falling behind everybody else. I think we really need to make sure that all stakeholders in Great Britain, all stakeholders in UK PLC understand why we need automation. If we can't use today's technology, we're not going to be able to use tomorrow's technology. It's no good looking long term. We have to use what's there now and increase this productivity. I think anybody that looks at the productivity numbers of the UK has to say they're disappointing. They're just not where they should be, because we're using a lot of older machinery, traditional machinery. We're not using what's currently available. Now, part of that is our problem, because if we're not making people aware of what's available, they're not going to be able to use it. But so we need to make people know what technology is available. We need to make them know what technology can do now. We need people to understand the upskilling that it needs. Sometimes everybody thinks we talk about upskilling, we're talking about going from no skills to mad, crazy, Elon Musk type of skills. We need just one step at a time. We need to just keep improving. If we move everybody up one step, then we fix this upskilling problem. We need to understand the return on investment. Everybody needs to understand what these things are going to cost over the course of their lifetime, not over the course of the initial purchase. If you say something's £10,000, people will say they can't afford it. If you say it will pay itself back in 6 months and then you've got 20 years worth of free running, it suddenly becomes a different picture. So we need to understand the return on investment, the lifetime running costs and everything else that goes with it. And we need to understand all aspects of automation. We need to understand what it can do, where it can do it. We've got really great things in this country. We've got great engineers, great inventors, great innovators, great manufacturers, great workforce. We've got great apprentices coming through. We've got a great flow of people coming through. We've always punched above our weight in this country. I mean, to actually even be 13th for the size of this country is good, but we can improve. This isn't a negative message. We are really, really, really good at what we do, but we can get better. We've got some fantastic speakers here this week, including, except me, but we've got people coming on afterwards. So if you can stay around for as long as you can and listen to what they got to say. As Lindsay said earlier on, challenge it. Challenge me. If you see me walking around the building now and you disagree with anything I've said, challenge me. We can go through it. This is learning for us. We get more out of people. I can stand here and tell you what I think the UK manufacturers need, what automation needs, whatever. But that's just me passing it down. It needs to be you telling me what's required. Then we can make it happen. Once again, thanks for being here. I really hope you enjoy your day. Enjoy your lunch, which is always quite good round here. Have a great day. Challenge everybody. Stay here. Thank you very much. Well.
Okay, so the first topic of discussion is being future ready. Can I welcome onto the stage from Amazon, Olivia Lane and Ian Grant. So they're going to be talking about educating for automation and technological advancement. Amazon are a prime, get it, example of, sorry, that was written in the script. A prime example of best practice in the way businesses need to adapt when introducing new technology. They are a world leader in getting things to your front door, as we know. And today we are very lucky to have Olivia and Ian here to tell us how they do it and to tell us how their commitment in preparing a workforce to deal with the technology they use is paying dividends. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So, what I want to talk to you about today is Amazon Apprenticeships, how we're using apprenticeships to fill those skills gaps that Tom and Lindsay have mentioned. Within manufacturing, yes, we need automation, but we also need it within logistics. And what we've tried to do is use apprenticeships to fill those skills gaps. Amazon is now really focused on apprenticeships. It's our key way of upskilling the workforce. When I first started at Amazon, that wasn't the case, but we are really now committed to it. This statement is from our website, it's from the jobs page. As you'll see, it is something that we want to use apprenticeships to help to grow the workforce, to grow the skills of the workforce, to upskill our current workforce and to bring in new talent. Olivia's an example of one of that new talent, and some of you guys sitting here are as well. But also in this room, we have examples of that upskilling. So a lot of people do our apprenticeships who've worked for Amazon for a while, and they see the apprenticeship route as the way that they can get to that next step in their career. And, it is pretty much at the moment, it's around about 50-50 between, certainly with the engineering apprenticeships, between external hires and those internal people that we want to upskill. As I say, it's grown a lot. So when I started with Amazon about 8 years ago now, we'd had 6 apprentices in engineering in 2018. And actually out of those 6 apprentices, 4 of them are still with us. So, and you'll see figures where we are quite successful in keeping people at Amazon, in converting them into roles, using the skills that we've trained them in our business. We've now got 2,000 apprentices across the UK on 49 different schemes. When I started, as I say, there was one scheme, and that was engineering. When I started, we had just hired 24 apprentices on what we call now the mechatronics apprenticeship. And we've grown that number across all the business lines. So you'll see at the bottom here, it's difficult to see that screen, but there are 49 different schemes. Engineering is the biggest programme on its own. It's the biggest in the UK. After that, we've got supply chain warehouse operative, which is a level 2 apprenticeship. And then we've got loads of other schemes. We've got an automation engineering scheme, smaller numbers than the mechatronics, but still an important scheme for us. And across the wider business, we have things like software development, buying and merchandising, broadcast assistant. So there's lots of opportunities for people within Amazon, within the broader business to upskill. And we do offer, as I say, we've got nearly 2,000 people on scheme at the moment. Specifically the mechatronics apprenticeship, we're using this to train what we call our RME technicians. So we've got a large workforce of RME technicians in the UK. We always struggle to hire good technicians. So we've used the apprenticeship programme, and it's grown year on year to currently where we've got 425 apprentices on programme. Since 2013, 176 apprentices have graduated, and 98% of those are still employed at Amazon. And 10% of those have been promoted into other roles. So the apprenticeship is a stepping stone. It's the first step on people's careers, and what we want to do is develop and speak about what other developments we're looking for in the future, but we want to help people to grow within the business. But ultimately, actually, even if people leave Amazon at the end of their apprenticeship, then I think I've done my job and Amazon have done their job, because we're supplying UK PLC with those skills. And yes, the apprentices are being trained in as mechatronics apprentices in a logistics environment, but those skills are equally transferable in the manufacturing environment. You know, it's very straightforward, I think, to move. You know, I used to work for Jaguar Land Rover. The apprenticeship that we used at Jaguar Land Rover is exactly the same as this apprenticeship. But what we do want to do is bespoke this apprenticeship more. So I'll talk a little bit later on about how we're looking to change things to make it more bespoke to Amazon. I also mentioned the automation engineering apprenticeship. That was something I introduced back in 2017. And since then, we've had we've currently got 49 apprentices on that programme. It's a level 6 apprenticeship. We use that to train our automation and controls engineers. So they're the level 4 engineers. And again, 80% of those are still employed at Amazon. And we've had 30 apprentices graduate since 2017. So the business impacts of apprenticeships, I think it's hard to underestimate how impactful apprentices are to the business. It's not just, you know, them getting the skills. I think they bring new insights into the business. They help to encourage other people in the business to help develop their skills. We find that apprentices, so the mechatronics apprenticeships is, you know, our engineering director, Adam Rogerson, he says that's the gold standard. That's what we want from all our technicians. We've got technicians who, frankly, aren't as good as the apprentices who come out of the time at the end. So that has a huge impact on our business. We want to continue to strive to improve for customers, and we need equipment that runs effectively, efficiently, doesn't break down as often, and that's what the mechatronics apprenticeship gives us, and also the automation engineering apprenticeship. And as we move forward, we're going to see more and more automation. So the new generation of sites are going to be much more automated than we've currently got. And actually, we think that in the new gen of sites, we can do the same throughput of orders processing with half the number of people. Now, as Tom says, well, that looks like it's taking jobs away. It isn't taking jobs away, it's increasing jobs, because what we need is more people like the apprentices in this room that are going to maintain that equipment. And what it's increasing is higher skilled, higher paid jobs. So, you know, that is a positive. And actually, we struggle to get people, not across the board. So, you know, it's not easy to find people that want to work at, you know, in tier 1 roles and picking and packing, particularly since Brexit. We're finding that that's a struggle. So if the business is to grow, we need more automation, we need more skills, and, you know, I think that's the key message that Tom was giving, that actually automation is not going to take away jobs. It's going to lead to much more higher paid, higher valued jobs and increase the productivity of the workforce. And those figures that Tom was quoting were quite shocking, actually, how far behind we are the rest of the world in automation. So some of the things that apprentices have done, and these are just a few examples. So each year we ask the second year apprentices to do a safety project. And those safety or quality projects, these are just some examples of some of these projects that the apprentices have done this year. And I've got 40, 50 different examples of these, of the apprentices' work for this year. And one apprentice recently, an automation engineering apprentice, one of his projects, this wasn't a safety project, but he identified an issue with part of our flat sorter, where packages were becoming backed up, and as it came around the corner, it caused a jam. It was costing 50,000 hours a year to sort out this problem. So what he did was got all the data, got all the information, and decided that what we needed was sensors. So we wanted an automated way that would stop that conveyor from running when the packages got to a certain height. So his project, it took him about 8 months to roll this project out, proved successful, and it's saved all of those hours. It's saved about £45,000 a year in RME costs and in their time. And that has now been rolled out across 5 other sites within the EU. And that's just one example of an apprentice project that's had a business impact. Looking to the future, what we want is to have different entry points for apprenticeships. We want to use apprenticeships not just to, well, we do want to use to upskill people, but what we want to do is to increase diversity. So as Lindsay was mentioning before, it's great to see so many females in the room who are on engineering apprenticeships. And actually within engineering in the UK, the RME population, it's around about 5% females, whereas with the apprenticeship, currently we're getting up towards 20% female. So we're using apprenticeships to increase our diversity, but it's not just male-female diversity that we want to increase. We want to increase social diversity. And one way we can do that is perhaps to have different entry levels to the apprenticeships, because we realise that we're taking people in on this programme, we're expecting a higher level of skills. Actually, what we could do is have a lower level apprenticeship that helps to build those skills, and I think that would be would increase our applicant pool and therefore increase our diversity for those people who have left school perhaps without the entry qualifications that we're looking for. But we also want to increase the skills. We want to keep giving people the opportunity to build skills throughout their career with Amazon. So what I would like to introduce is a next level apprenticeship, a level 4 automation and control apprenticeship, to give those more refined automation skills. So it's basically a step between the mechatronics apprenticeship and the level 6 automation engineering apprenticeship. We've started a programme of pre-apprenticeships. So as I say, we want to use apprenticeships to upskill the workforce, to keep people at Amazon. We have a thing called career choice, and career choice traditionally at Amazon was a reward to tier 1 associates to give them an opportunity to gain new skills, and then they could leave the business. And that was, you know, it was quite innovative at the time, but actually we've realised now that what we really want is to upskill people and help them to stay within the business. What we find is that a lot of people, tier 1 associates who want to do the engineering apprenticeship, don't have the entry qualifications. So we've developed a course with MTC to a pre-apprenticeship which will give the people on that programme over 8 months, it will give them engineering knowledge and give them the level 2 maths and English qualification to be able to then move on to the apprenticeship. We also want to do more with T-levels. You'll see the T-levels badge here. So I'm a T-level ambassador. We want to use T-levels to help us to sort of recruit externally. And T-levels, for those of you who don't know them, they're a post-16-year-old education programme which are designed to replace BTECs and the like. And the core element of a T-level is that it has a 45-day work experience placement. So we want to use that 45-day work experience placement as a sort of a proving ground for people, so they can come in, students can come in, they can spend 45 days working in the engineering team, and at the end of that then we'll be able to see whether they can see whether engineering is a career for them or Amazon's a career for them, and we can see if they're right for us, and then we can fast track them into the apprenticeship. And also work experience in general, so we've got a work experience programme starting because again, what we want is to help increase that work readiness of students, and that's one of the things that we find, all employers find, that there's a lack of work readiness from students coming out of school, and that's the reason why T-levels were envisaged and worked on over the past few years. We'd also like to build on-site training centres. So as I said, we want to bespoke the apprenticeship more. We want to make it more Amazonian, if you like. And one way that we can do that is to actually bring the training in-house, so to use MTC to deliver the apprenticeship at one of our facilities. So yesterday I was in Man 3, which was our facility in Bolton, looking at the big training centre they've got there, which is used currently to do some training with apprentices, but to upskill the existing workforce, the existing RME workforce. But we want to use that to build out a training centre that's going to be an Amazon training centre where we can train our apprentices. So I think that will give us a bit more flexibility. And again, I think it will improve access to the apprenticeships, because currently all the apprentices come down to MTC for the first 8 months of their apprenticeship. And that, and they spend, the working week here. And that's not always the best way for everybody. People who've got family commitments, etc., can't do that. So if we can have more localized training, that'll again allow us to hopefully attract a more diverse range of applicants to the program. And one thing that isn't on this slide actually is that Amazon is going to be sponsoring, we're going to be the employer sponsor for the Mechatronics WorldSkills competition next year. So that we're really proud to be the sponsors, and I'm going to go and have a look at some of our guys who are competing this year in the robotics. And you know, our goal is hopefully that we can get some of our apprentices to Shanghai in 2026. So that's the end of my presentation. As I say, ask questions. If you've got any questions, happy to take them now. Oh, nothing from you guys. Well, I'll hand over to Olivia then, who's going to tell us a little bit more about her journey.
Thank you, Ian. So I am Olivia Lane and I'm a Year 2 Mechatronics apprentice. So day to day after my year in Coventry, I am a reliability and maintenance engineer. So I take part in lots of preventative and reactive maintenance on the shop floor, as well as carrying on with my studies of Year 2. I'll soon be starting my safety project, so I'll let you know how that goes next year probably. I'm going to take you through my journey into the apprenticeship. I was one of those who actually managed to progress through Amazon into the apprenticeship, but I think my journey in the academic sense is probably one of the most important because it could have gone a completely different way for me. So in secondary school, I was very academic. I really liked to try hard in my revision, my exams, had big dreams of being a doctor. All my academic decisions up until I joined Amazon was to become a doctor. So my GCSE options, I picked purely with the idea of becoming a doctor in my head. A-levels, I did chemistry, biology and psychology. And at that point, once I'd got my results, I was like, hang on a minute, like I need to pause. I need to take a breath, and things didn't go quite how I wanted them to. So I missed out slightly on my grades for med school. I really struggled with the aptitude side of the whole med school applications. I'd done all my work experience for medicine. That was my dream. So all my teachers were like, come on, Olivia, you can do it. Like, resit your exams, do this, do that, do university, make sure you apply for university. You could do this university course, you could do that university course, you could transfer. All these thoughts were going through my head. And I was like, do you know what? Something's just not clicking. Something is not sitting right. So this is where I decided to join Amazon. I joined as a tier 1 on the shop floor, working on the lines, and it was at this point that I was able to speak to people in the real world and gauge a real life concept of what I actually want to do for the rest of my life. And I decided that I was going to get some money behind me, buy myself some time, and just think, take a breath. And that was where I realized that I actually get the same sort of fulfillment as what I thought I would get from medicine through planning shifts, through adjusting the process flow of the parcels and the packages and the people management to achieve the same goal. And I started to progress in terms of the leadership side of Amazon, where I was then able to engage with the engineers more. When things would go wrong on the lines, I would deep dive the issues. I would ask them questions. I would ask, well, why has that happened? What engineered solutions can you put in place to make this not happen again? And through that sort of process is where I really realized that I actually want to be that engineer, because I could get the same fulfillment through looking after the health of the building, working as a team to diagnose an issue on a piece of machinery. I can still get that same enjoyment without necessarily having to take a step back and go back to school, maybe retake that A-level that I missed out on. Basically just get to where I want to be in a slightly different field, which does still have crossovers. Like, there is still plenty of engineering opportunities within the medical field and robotics and everything to do with the engineering of the future. So at that point, I realized that university wasn't all it was cracked up to be for me personally. But in this time, I actually attended my brother's school prom, and my ex-head teachers, they saw me as like, she's really academic, she's going to do university, she's going to be one of our percentages that goes to university from our sixth form. So they were like, what are you doing? Where are you now? What are you doing? And they were, the disappointment on their face immediately when I said, oh, I'm working at Amazon. Immediately they were like, oh, we had big dreams for you. And my ex-head teacher said to me, don't waste your academic talent on Amazon. That was his words. And he was like, oh, make sure you don't get stuck there. Make sure you still do university. You could still do this. You could still do that. Little did he know, in my head, I had this big plan. I had my whole life essentially mapped out like I've always had. It was just a different destination now. So if I hadn't already had the exposure that I'd had at work at Amazon, that could have really damaged me. That could have been, well, it could have just been detrimental to my future, really, that just those two simple phrases, but they've stuck with me ever since. And luckily for me, I'd applied for the mechatronics apprenticeship. I was going through the interview process, everything was flying really well, and I ended up getting onto the apprenticeship, which is why I'm here now. And luckily, 2 years down the line, it's possibly the best thing I could have ever done. And the experiences that I've had, the places where my career is going to go, the things I'm going to learn, the knowledge that I'm building every day now is completely priceless to me. Instead of rushing to university like the advice I was given, instead, I've been able to achieve things that I never would have been able to with that. And it doesn't mean I'm never going to go to university ever in the future, but I just took that time to really sit back and evaluate my life options, and now I just honestly couldn't be more grateful. And that is where the whole narrative of university over apprenticeships really is now shifting, and I'm glad I didn't listen to it back then. And now, luckily, the narrative is coming through that apprenticeships are such an amazing option. They really can deliver everything university can and more. So I'm just great. I'm really grateful for it. So I hope you enjoyed hearing my story of how I got into engineering.
We've got a question that's come in for yourself, Olivia. What words of advice would you give to any young females interested in a career in engineering that may see it as historically a male-dominated sector? And what have you learnt in this regards if you've ever overcome such doubts?
I think now it really is one of the safest spaces where women can take up engineering now. There's not the bullying, there's not the tormenting, there's not that, oh, we're way better than you, like you're just a woman. Like there's not that anymore, really. It is the safest time to do it, really. It's not as daunting as what it is. And in terms of, I think there's this whole imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon, but just go for it. Like everybody really does feel at times like, oh, I'm out of my depth here. But if you just go for it, the worst that can happen is they say no, or you get something wrong, and you can learn from that. So just go for it.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Huge round of applause, please. Thank you. Okay, so next up, we've got a discussion which is based on shaping the future of global talent, integrating WorldSkills excellence into mainstream education. We've got Carla Koch here. Now, Carla is fully integrated into the local European and WorldSkills programs, and she will provide a valuable insight into how we can benefit from the program that FANUC has sponsored for a number of years. Please welcome to the stage, Carla.
Thank you. So you're timing again. Sorry, we'll give it a few minutes to settle in, and thank you for everyone who's staying. Appreciate it. So, as it was mentioned, I'm Carla Koch. I'm lecturer in engineering, mechanical engineering, in Northern Regional College, Northern Ireland. And I'm also, for the past 4 years, the training manager for robot system integration for the UK team with WorldSkills UK. And just recently in September, I have been the chief expert for the international competition in Lyon 2024 in robot systems integration. We had 18 teams from so many countries competing in that international second edition of robot system integration. A few words about WorldSkills before I move to the future of the vocational training, the way we see it in WorldSkills. WorldSkills International is a global charity that organizes those large events every 2 years, and as well as conferences focused on vocational skills. We have at this stage 63 skills covered, and this happens for over 74 years. It started after the Second World War, when in Europe especially was noticed a lack of skills and economy was heading towards another recession. Since then, it's covering about 86 member countries, 2/3 of the population, and the mission is by 2030 to have 100 million young people inspired, empowered into selecting skills, vocational skills as a career choice. Core values, we have to inspire, develop, and influence industry and governments in order to adopt those vocational skills. If we look at robotics, and it was the topic of the day, I think, even Tom mentioned it, we know that in the last decade, more than 500,000 of robots have been installed, which actually require not only manufacturing capabilities, but also the skilled workers to install them, to program them, and so on. So what we are building will be those system integrators that will have to provide all the technical solutions for the robotization of that cell, and also look at the ergonomy, look at the health and safety of the people around those robotic systems. As a skill, robot system integration is quite a new one, and it has been introduced in 2019, followed of European competition in 2021 with only 6 countries participated. The first official competition was in Luxembourg 2022, where we had 11 countries competing. It was our first presence as UK, and very proud of my team because after only 7-8 months of training, they managed to achieve 7th place in the world. It was followed, and we continue our presence in Euroskill Dansk, where we were 10 countries competing last year. And then, as mentioned, September Lyon, we were 18 countries competing. But maybe
Competition Manager for Robot Systems Integration. Today I'm going to talk about what competitors can expect at a Robot Systems Integration competition. Competitors are going to be asked to make a small version of a real production facility. They must think creatively about the process, whether it is picking, assembling, painting, or some other task. They really must be creative and innovative in their solution. Competitors start by creating a layout in our RoboGuide simulation system. Then they have to configure and program the robot and the peripheral equipment. We start with a basic task, and then we add extension tasks on top of that to really challenge the competitors. The final assessment includes a handover of customer-type documentation. Our test project for Lyon is an application which is very relevant for the world today, affecting both economic and environmental development of the world. It's very important to focus on the aspects which will be marked on each day before moving on to other aspects. It's also extremely important to test, test. Just because something works once doesn't mean it will work when it's assessed. Building a reliable system is what the customer wants.
So thank you. It's better to hear from the experts. Nigel was the skill competition manager in Lyon. He set it up the task. He overseen the whole competition from logistics, from the basics, start up to the end of the competition. Us in UK, we started WorldSkills UK with our first participation actually in 1953 in Madrid. We had the first competitor, Douglas Hill, who won actually a silver medal in woodwork. Since then, we were very successful. We affiliated to the WorldSkills International, following their core values to inspire, develop, and innovate, liaising with employers, educators, as well as governments to progress and advance actually apprenticeships and vocational education. In respect to the tradition, on national level, on industrial robotics, we have started quite recently in 2021. And now we are at the 4th edition of this competition. From all those national competitions, we get the international squad, the Team UK, that will represent the country successfully, I would say, in the past 3 years on the international stage. As mentioned, we had Luxembourg, 7th place. On the international, we had Dansk with a Medallion of Excellence, and Lyon in September with Charlie and Jason. My international team, which are present here today, and the competition was already mentioned. Please pay us a visit. We are on the 1st floor in the premises here. They're supervising the competition at this stage, helping with the judging, helping with the running of the entire process. So within 3 years of training, they built up the skills to be able to do that. And we have a few pictures just to illustrate what I was just mentioning. The first national competition was held in Northern Regional College. We had only 4 teams at the time qualified in the final. From this, we had Adam and Cameron, who joined the international squad. Following year, in 22, we had the national final here in FANUC, in Coventry, where we got the following squad, and Charlie and Jason joined the team at that time. And last year, again, in FANUC, the 3rd edition. We are quite a new skill. As it was mentioned, it's required. We need to have those integrators in robotic system. And on the international scale, I have a few pictures from the 2 teams that participated, and they were awarded with a Medallion of Excellence. Now, to explain a bit more what it means, a Medallion of Excellence is the international standard in the skill. They reach that level of competence. Sometimes one of my competitors, Jason, says that means about equivalent to 10 years of industrial experience. The intensive training they go through, the commitment, it's amazing. And please come along, come to meet them. They will be here. Also, Jason, I think, will join on stage later on, the talks that will, yes. So please try to meet them and speak to them to see how all this influenced their life. But what we do to bring back from the insights we gather on international level. So first was standardizing the skills, standardizing developments that happened from all those editions we had in 22 and 23. 13 international experts, which we are with various backgrounds. Some are from FANUC background, technical staff, or even servicing. Educators from different TVET colleges and universities, as well as integrators from industry. We all got together to create this standardization documentation. First edition was issued in July this year and contains 18 chapters of robot system integration project stages. Challenges, we still have challenges because developing new test projects based on industrial applications not only requires a lot of creativity from our side as educators, but also they're costly. We require, hence, more sponsorship and support from industry. It is also challenging to train and build competition experience for new countries joining in those competitions. We bring this back home by creating on the WorldSkills UK website all this database of resources. One of them will be in respect to robot system integration, but all the other 62 skills I was mentioning, anything you want to consider, starting from the manufacturing sector, going into services or cooking or anything you want to think of, they're based on the they're placed on the WorldSkills UK website. We created this international skill fact sheet that will have topics going from competence to excellence, how we build that into our students, looking in depth of the high-performing countries, and we know we have many of them focused in Asia region, looking on how we can champion in UK by training to high-level skills our apprentices, and have a go. Try it as educators yourselves with the students, with the apprentices. We also, WorldSkills UK had built a Center of Excellence. Many colleges, TVET colleges and universities are joining in, and created this Learning Lab platform. That's an amazing resource for all the educators. Moving on, we continue. We have developed at this stage a curriculum in respect to the robot system integration, how we move on from core to high-level competencies in this skill, how we build those transferable skills constantly for our students to be ready for employment. It's maybe worth to mention, both my international teams are actually full-time students. They are not apprentices. And the level they reached after completing the foundation degree in engineering and participating especially in this training and competitions is amazing. What we tried, small steps at a time. We do know, and it was mentioned before, that industrial robotics is delivered in BTEC, T-levels, even NVQs, but these are restrictive to the resources each college has. And we know we need more practical involved in this delivery. Our level 5 courses in Northern Regional College allowed us to introduce industry-relevant delivery. And through the past 5 years of experience on delivering that, we have seen the students coming through. Also, at national competitions, we have built a database of judges and experts that became familiar with the requirements, very strict requirements in the skill and how those are implemented in a competition process. Our aim, in the end, is engaging more TVET colleges, universities, and employers across the country to register, train, and build a larger database of apprentices in industrial robotics. And why not to hear...
I'm Nigel Ramsden. I work for FANUC, and I'm the Skill Competition Manager for Robot Systems Integration. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the collaboration between FANUC and WorldSkills. The FANUC journey with WorldSkills really started in France, where we'd been running our own amateur competitions. Someone came along to one of these and said, "You really ought to speak to WorldSkills because they know how to run these competitions." We ran our first competition in Caen, in Normandy, in 2018, and this was followed soon after by our first international competition in 2019. By the time of WorldSkills Special Edition in 2022, we felt that we had really learned how to run these competitions according to the WorldSkills methodology. By supporting WorldSkills, FANUC actively contributes to developing talent, which perfectly aligns with FANUC's commitment to automation and social responsibility. I recently returned from a national competition where I was reunited with two competitors from WorldSkills in Gdansk. These two are now working in robot systems integration. Seeing this kind of progression is very rewarding for me. We started in 2019 with 5 teams, and now, 2 competitions and a pandemic later, we are at 18 teams for Lyon. I think this shows that there's a bright future for our skill.
So, that's all about the presentation. Actually, I want to extend this invite. Please visit our competition, industrial robotics competition. The interesting part was the speaker before me, the Amazon, which is a large employer, and we know the automation and the engagement they have with the education. Our project today in the competition is actually based on an Amazon task. So competitors will have to actually deliver different packages. We will have QR codes reading and so on. So deliver to the customers different packages. Do the assembly, use a conveyor line, and so on. So it's quite an interesting coincidence. Thank you for listening to me. And if there are any questions, happy to take them.
Any questions from the floor? Okay, thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
So we are going to take a break just now. We're running slightly over, so it will just be about 10 minutes. But just after the break, we're going to have Rosa here talking about how we can attract young people. Sorry, no, Rosa's is first, 1 second. Rosa's going to be talking, Rosa Wells, about how the Institutes of Technology are working alongside education and industry to put in place those future skills we keep hearing we so desperately need. And then afterwards, we're going to have a panel discussion about how can we attract young people into UK manufacturing. So by all means, take a break, have a coffee, but please do come back up here in 10 minutes time to join in with the panel discussion and listen to Rosa's talk. And online, we'll be back with you in 10 minutes. discussion. And I always say this, but it's one of my favourite parts of the whole event because it's a chance for all of you to get involved. I said this earlier, and everyone who's watching online as well. Yesterday, somebody asked Tom Boucher a question, and then he turned it round and said, well, what is it that you want from us? And it's the first time I've really seen that be done. And he kind of put it back to the person who was asking the question as to what they want. And that's what's so exciting about panel discussions as well, is it's your chance to get involved. If you're watching online also, please feel free to send in any messages throughout. All the messages come through to my phone and I can ask them, or if you are in the audience, just raise your hand and we've got a roving microphone for you as well. So, first of all, we're going to have Rosa come up onto the stage. However, after that, Rosa will stay on stage and we're going to have that panel discussion. There's quite a few people involved in the panel discussion today, so it's quite exciting. So can I welcome onto the stage Rosa Wells. Now, we're going to hear from Rosa Wells about how the Institutes of Technology are working alongside education and industry to put in place those future skills we keep hearing we so desperately need. With current and future skills such a hot topic at this event, let's see how we can support and get behind those making a difference. Please welcome to the stage Rosa Wells. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And it's been brilliant being here this morning and listening to the discussions and hearing already from Olivia, and great to be joined by other apprentices later on the panel discussion. So I'm here today to talk to you about the sorts of things we're doing within the education world to try and support business and industry with that productivity challenge that Tom talked about earlier. So we know how important that is. My background is in engineering. I started out in manufacturing at 18, straight from doing my A-levels. And again, I think back at that point, my school was a little bit disappointed about my decision to go into manufacturing and not go straight to university. But I was really well supported by what was Lucas Aerospace at that point in time to continue to develop. They sponsored me through my degree studies once I'd sort of proven myself. So it's great to hear those stories still coming through. And I've slightly wasn't sure whether to put all those funny titles up on the screen, but really just to demonstrate. I work at University College Birmingham. They created a new engineering school back in 2022 because they were listening to the national and regional skills challenges. And I feel really fortunate to be able to develop our further education offer for those leaving school at 16. And I can design and develop a curriculum that takes people right the way up to postgraduate studies with apprenticeship opportunities, part-time study and full-time study. So and to be able to do that in a way that works for industry and the students we're working with, I need to think what's happening in the region, what do employers need, and what's happening nationally. So I'm fortunate to be able to chair the National Network of Institutes of Technology, and I'll be able to talk to you a bit about that today. And I've recently been invited to work a bit more closely with the Engineering Council because they recognise they've had a focus on the academic routes into professional registration, and we need to be clearer about how the vocational apprenticeship routes align with that national and international recognition for engineers as well. So if you haven't heard of Institutes of Technology, there are 21 now across England. They are an England initiative. And they've been designed to bring together colleges, universities and employers to really think about what we need around the technology skills gaps. Engineering is obviously a really key part of that, but there are other sectors that we work with. And actually a lot of that overlaps. So we're working with advanced manufacturing in Birmingham, but cyber is really important, we know, for some of the new technologies that are coming through in engineering as well. So it's a really interesting development. They're relatively new. The first one's opened in 2019, their first operation being 1920, so it's quite a challenging first year for us across the network, and we've had more come on board recently, so some are only in their first year of operation this year. So if you want to see where they are, these are the this is how they're scattered around the country. It's a little bit of a cold spot in East Anglia, but we're looking at how we support them with some of the challenges that they've got. So we now have 21. institutes of technology in operation, and they're working with 84 colleges or FE partners and 36 universities and 101 employers. And that's growing. So the last time I delivered this, I think it was 77 colleges and 99 employers. So we've tipped over the 100. So we're still growing the network to look at how we support industry and be responsive to the growing, emerging and developing needs. And those employer partnerships are really important, and we have some anchor employers across the network that are really supporting us to develop. That's right the way through from Salts is a Birmingham-based company, a family-owned business, right the way through to the bigger corporates, and thinking about what the different needs are. And so by having regional networks and collaborations, we can support SMEs as well as the bigger national companies that need support as well. So really thinking about how we work differently with employers, how employers can influence the skills ecosystems within their regions, and then how does that work nationally as well. So some of that is linking up. So some really interesting feedback from some of those employers that we've had coming through. Looking at how we build that sort of capacity. So we've got students of all ages. So this is for youngsters, building pipeline. The real focus for institutes of technology is what we in education call level 4-5, which doesn't always translate very well. And we heard from Amazon earlier about the importance of that space. So we know there's a lot of graduate routes into engineering, and we know that the level 3, for example, engineering apprenticeship, the sort of technician apprenticeship is quite well understood. But what we find in the UK, one of the reasons we think we've got the productivity challenge is this sort of, what we say, sort of equivalent to first and second year of university. That higher technician space, senior technician space is not necessarily that well understood. Sometimes it's difficult to progress people into that space. And out there in schools, and parents don't always understand the opportunities within that space before the graduate level, and how important that is for industry. So that's what we've been tasked with. How do we build the pipeline in? How do we support industry to grow that space? And how do we get the message out there to young people, parents and schools about how many opportunities there are that you don't have to have a degree to be successful in STEM careers and in engineering. And there are examples, so if you are interested in finding out a bit more about some of the things that we've been doing across the IoTs, there is a link there to a report, just looking at some different sectors, what different IoTs across the UK are doing. There's lots of ideas in there of what's already happened, and the institutes of technology are open and ready to listen to employers and to link you up with the right education provider. So this is what we hear from employers that they really like. They can go to one institute of technology in a region, so we have one in Birmingham, and you can be linked to the right college. It might be a catapult centre, a university that's going to support you with that particular need that you've got. So it can be bespoke to what you need. You don't have to talk to lots of different people. We can help with those conversations. So if we have a look at some examples, this is a bit further afield. We'll come back to Birmingham being a local one. So this is the West of England IoT. They do lots of things. This is just one example of what they've been developing with GKN in their region. So they've been able to respond to GKN's requirement to develop their degree apprentices. They've been able to help sort of some of the investment in the new technologies. They've been doing quite a lot around hydrogen and what skills are needed for hydrogen. And a lot of focus on aerospace, obviously, in the Bristol area, but also additive manufacturing, composites and Industry 4. So a really interesting space, working with colleges and universities around Bristol and with key employers such as GKN. And this is what they were able to do. So they've been able to develop a space within GKN that helps their degree apprentices, but also the students from the colleges as well. So they've built this space, and there's a quote there from Paul at GKN in terms of how important it's been for GKN to have those links through and to be supported by the Department for Education to really invest in those skills. So this is a bit more of an image of what it looks like. This was the launch of the space. And just to give you a flavour, there should be a video on the next slide so you can see it. There we go. So I think it gives that feel of, you know, a professional corporate environment for students learning vocational and technical education. So it helps to develop those behaviours we heard about earlier from Amazon, so important, and sometimes that can be missing when learners have only sort of studied in a school or a college. Creating those work-ready environments and developing the behaviours as well as the knowledge and skills that young people need to be successful in engineering. So that's just one example. So that's in Bristol, and that's working with GKN to support them, and other employers are involved in their region as well. So in Birmingham, because of the nature of our geography, most of our students can navigate and get into the city centre. So we've created a hub and spoke model in Birmingham. So we have a central hub, which is our learning factory. It's actually on the Aston University campus, but is accessible to every engineering student at our colleges and universities within Birmingham. And we have all 3 FE colleges in Birmingham and 4 universities, and all of their students and apprentices can access this space and work together and look at how they can develop. So this means that whether we're working with schools or regional or local authorities and employers, we've got one point of contact, we've got a central hub, we can really help to amplify that message about how important engineering is, and we can really start to coordinate our response. So this is what it looks like inside. So it is a learning factory. So when we looked at Birmingham and Solihull as a region, we were asked what technology or what industry do we want to support. Some institutes of technology support several industries. We've actually said, you know what, in this region, engineering is what needs the support. It is we know manufacturing is so important to the West Midlands and to Birmingham and Solihull and Coventry as well, obviously. So we've created a learning factory with Industry 4 technologies. So in there we've got automation, we've got robotics, we've got space to mimic the Industry 4 technologies you might see out in industry, but on a scale we can fit in a classroom. So this space is now available to our engineering facilities, engineering departments across Birmingham and Solihull, and it's a really lively space. We have students from all sorts of different backgrounds, different employers coming in to work on projects. We have our T-level learners from our colleges coming in. Again, they meet with employers, they get set live projects, and some really interesting new technologies. The other thing that this is helping us with in Birmingham is, you're probably aware that FE colleges sometimes struggle to get the expertise they need to actually take people to the next level in terms of the technology. So because we've got undergraduate and postgraduate students from the universities, they're actually coming in and delivering some of those new technologies they're learning on their degree programmes, and in turn they're learning from apprentices who have some more of the practical skills and can see how it can be applied. So it's a really nice melting pot to bring different people together and to help everybody develop. And it's created a really interesting environment to bring FE college lecturers and university lecturers together to learn and work together as well as those students. And Suki is one of our supporters from Envisage Group. And we have an employer board. FANUC have supported us as well through developing our regional IoT. So it's a really interesting space to be working in. We also have created a virtual space that schools and young people can explore. So you can get into, we have the cardboard headsets that we send out to schools, so young people can actually explore that space. And it isn't just about the space. Within that, we've created an area where young people can explore options that are open to them, so they can look at what are they interested in, what are the routes through to get into those careers. Are they better off going to university? Is that going to suit them, or are they better off doing an apprenticeship? And we have video case studies of apprentices from across Birmingham and Solihull who've done different things, who've just, maybe not done what school teachers might expect you to do. So you can actually listen to young people who have gone through these routes in Birmingham or Solihull or the wider West Midlands region, and really get to hear from them. So before we developed this platform, this online platform, we went out and talked to schools, we talked to college students, we talked to those students who actually weren't doing anything. They'd left school and actually weren't studying at all. What could we do to inspire them and get them interested? So this platform has been developed purely from the research we've done with students locally and obviously listening to employers. And one of the things that we hear a lot is a lot of people don't really understand what engineering is, what the jobs look like. Often it's behind closed doors. So events like this are brilliant, where you can actually see, open the doors to some of the manufacturing facilities, so young people can see what's available. And so what we've done is created a bit of tried to create a bit of a marketing campaign to sort of inspire people into engineering and STEM careers.
Don't usually go.
I feel like Mike, Jordan, give me the rock and I'm scoring. Hey, came from the bottom, that's scoring.
What's up?
Hey, I got a flex. I need a Nike bag, give me the check.
We would have a moral responsibility to do something about this changing climate.
I told him out of
Can you give me the spanner, please?
I don't got nothing to say. Now they can't run in my pace. Yeah, they know that we ain't the same.
We're diving into the world of artificial intelligence, robotics.
Yeah, they know that we ain't the same. 402, we rap the game. I told them this ain't a game. I don't got nothing to say. Now they can't run in my pace.
So that then takes young people into our platform, and then they can start to explore what the different routes are and listen to others who've maybe gone through different routes before them. And it was filmed in Birmingham, so there's some familiar spaces. And that's what, when we did talk to people, students in schools, they wanted to see people like them who had gone and made different decisions, and how could that sort of support them through. So we've seen some really good uptake from schools, and we know schools have a lot of challenges. So trying to make it easier for them is something we're trying to do through that Institute of Technology, creating a coherent network for them to be able to access employers, access advice, and really change up what they're doing with young people in the schools. We also have a STEM learning library that schools can borrow from. So we have robotics kits, Lego kits, and we can support them to learn how to use those with young people to really excite them about engineering. So briefly, just to mention the Black Country Marches IoT, just because it's a little bit different. So it's based in Dudley, and they have a very different setup to the Birmingham one. And part of when we set up the Institutes of Technology, we had to persuade the Department for Education that Dudley and Birmingham are quite different places. When you're in Westminster, that might not be quite so clear. But we know in Dudley, they're working with much smaller employers, very small manufacturers, and they open the doors and let those manufacturers go in and use the facilities as well. And so they're having to be a little bit different in terms of how they develop their offer, having to be a bit more bespoke, some shorter courses, and creating facilities that are accessible to everybody across the Black Country in terms of those businesses. So it just shows you that each IoT has been developed to respond to the region's needs. There's no one size fits all. There's not a single model here. Each region has responded slightly differently. And what we're trying to do with the IoTs is to try to help with that complex skills landscape that we know that employers find difficult, and we understand is difficult. So we're trying to bring together partners, create collaboration where we can, and make it easier for industry to access the skills they need. So just some examples of some projects that are going on. So there's some further education and innovation funding sponsored by Innovate UK. So in Greater Birmingham and Solihull, we've got the Birmingham Innovation Centre partnership. The IoT within that is looking at how they support with innovation in engineering, and Black Country Marches are supporting their Black Country FE Innovation Service as well. We know that there's obviously new things coming through, and batteries are one of those sort of, not necessarily emerging, but one of those technologies that's a bit of a disruptor in terms of what are the skills that are needed, and some quick upskilling of the workforce. So Innovate UK have also sponsored a Birmingham-based and a Northeast-based development of what skills are needed for the workforce, for those that are working with batteries, whether that's design engineers or those working directly with manufacturing on the shop floor. So those programmes are starting to be piloted, and they're both involving institutes of technology in their region. We also work with the Catapult network, and we know we've got MTC over the road. So we've been working on emerging skills projects and foresighting. I'm currently working with MTC on a foresighting project looking at the skills. How do we support SMEs to adopt automation? So that's a current project. So up until now, it's been largely focusing on what are the new technologies and how do we upskill people. And now I know Mike Wilson, I think, is either here today or tomorrow. He can talk a lot more about that. But how do we support business to adopt some of those technologies, and how do we look at how we develop those skills around adoption? I was quite fortunate to be in China a couple of weeks ago, and I was a supplier to BYD, but major electric car manufacturer in China, and saw quite the scale of how they're adopting automation. I saw their current line where they had some automation, and then they showed me an empty warehouse, and then all the equipment they're about to install, and it is certainly at scale. So, we need to have a look at how we sort of respond to some of that and how we do more to support the adoption. And I was able to talk to them about how did they manage the skills, and they talked to me about how they work with their local technology colleges and how they brought young people in on very much like a T-level placement and then help them to develop into the sector. So it's also really interesting to learn from some of that international best practice. We've got in South Yorkshire, the Catapult there is part of the Institute of Technology. The National Composite Centre is part of the West of England IoT. So it's about bringing these conversations together so they're not happening in silos. So you actually, if you're talking to the MTC, if they think the local Institute of Technology can help, they'll direct in, they pull us in. Mike pulls me in to talk about what we can do to support the MTC. So it's just that continuous development of the networks and collaboration. And also the West Midlands Robotics Cluster, which I think Tom mentioned earlier, really interesting space to be in. And tying in with Carla earlier, we're, as a network, working with WorldSkills UK. We've been awarded funding as a network of institutes of technology to develop an innovation project, looking at some of that international best practice I've just been talking about. So yes, I've had the opportunity to go to the Netherlands, to France, to Lyon to see the WorldSkills finals. I've been able to go over to China to talk to them about how they're working on their skills gaps, and also to Vietnam. So it's been an interesting year, and there are some resources coming out next week off the back of that. So we're disseminating this project at the WorldSkills UK National Finals in Manchester, and there will be some resources. You can see that booklet there coming out. We've been looking at how we can excite young people about engineering, how we help with some of that inclusion, also looking at a specific deep dive into what Japan's doing, because we know that they're quite good at this, and what can we learn from them. So we'll be able to share some of those resources once I've disseminated back to the team next week. And then Engineering Council. So mentioned at the beginning that the Engineering Council are really looking at what we do differently in this space in terms of vocational recognition. How do we really ensure that vocational and technical pathways are well aligned with professional registration processes? How do we recognise the skills that young people have, or those older students have, as they're developing through? I only applied for my chartership last year, so it can be quite daunting, but actually once I sort of stepped into that and went, I'm just going to do it, I've put it off for long enough, I started talking to my professional engineering institution. They were so lovely, so supportive, and it's really about opening that up. We know that in the construction sector, professional registration is kind of underpins a lot of what they do, because they have to support it in order to get the contracts that they need. And sometimes in manufacturing, we're not quite up to speed on professional registration. And I think it's so important because it gives us that parity of esteem with what we've heard earlier. We talk about doctors and lawyers. Engineers have got so much to offer the country, and they're not always valued in the same way. So I guess it's how we keep having that conversation to ensure that that professional registration is at the heart of what we're doing when we're developing our apprentices as well. And that is everything I was going to do today. So thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience? I've got a question from online. So, Rosie, you mentioned that there isn't a necessity for a degree to embark upon a STEM career. Is there a focus upon practical soft skills as we try to bridge the skills gap?
Yes, I think it's important that we look at the whole picture. So what's really useful about the apprenticeship scheme is it looks at knowledge, skills and behaviours. And often what we hear from industry, and a fair point, that when we just focus on the knowledge, actually that doesn't give the broader skills that you need in engineering. It's so important that you can communicate, that you can work in a team, that you can be resilient. That all of those other skills are really important to develop. So it's not just about the technical knowledge, it's the broader, rounder development of individuals within engineering.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, a huge round of applause for Rosa, please. Take a seat, because you're on the stage next. Okay, so next up we have got panel discussion. How can we attract young people into UK manufacturing? Hoping lots of people are watching online, because or message anyone also that you feel would like to be part of this. As I've said before, it's about getting yourselves involved, but also if you're watching online, please feel free to get involved as well. The messages come straight through to my phone and I can ask the panel also. Okay, so led by the UK Automation Forum, part of Automate UK. Gail from Automate UK will be hosting this session, and the title says it all, and we really do need to be listening for this one. So we'd really like to get some audience participation. So can I welcome Gail to the stage and everybody else who's involved with the panel discussion also, as we change the stage over.
Quite alarming that the chairs are on wheels. I might just move that forward. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this UK Automation Forum event that FANUC have kindly invited us to, probably because Oliver's on the steering committee. But in case you haven't heard of us, we launched this year. This is our final event of the year. We've had 7 so far, covering all kinds of different topics. But today, obviously, we're concentrating on young people and trying to attract them in. And I'm very happy to say we've managed to, we've tracked 3 down to get. So I'm not dissing you, Scott or Rosa or me, but we've got 3 of them here to be with us. We try and discuss topics that are relevant, that we're not trying to flog anyone anything, we're just trying to impart knowledge through a discussion which generally often brings up better things than just someone sitting here talking to you. So it is a massive topic, as we all know, and without attracting young people in, this gap is going to get wider and wider and wider. And certainly it's all very well everyone wanting to go into Formula One or whatever, but who wants to work on a Coca-Cola line or in what I'd call proper, food and drink manufacturing and Amazon and Vision and places like this that don't, it's almost like a twilight industry, isn't it? Who's heard of it? They just don't imagine anything beyond drinking that drink or eating that pie. They're not thinking of ginsters, they're not thinking of that kind of thing. So we really have gathered an expert panel of you, Rosa, obviously expert, and Scott. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because that always works better. So I'm going to start from that end. Obviously, you've heard from Rosa. But if you just give me a couple of your titles, that will. That's where we're running out of time,
Yeah. Rosa Wells, so FE Principal and Dean for STEM at University College Birmingham.
And I'm going to ask Scott next as the token other person that isn't as young as others.
You outed me as not a young person.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Scott.
So my name's Scott Pepper. I head up the sector for process instrumentation and control at Gambika. So that's my main role, but I think I'm here today because I also head up the Young Council within Gambika, as well as Gambika's University and Industry Collaboration Group.
Okay, so that's your outreach. Olivia.
I'm a second-year mechatronics apprentice at Amazon.
Okay, and Catherine?
I'm a first-year software engineering apprentice at Scorpion Vision.
Okay, and an Automate UK member. And Jason?
Hi, my name is Jason. I'm an ex-international competitor for WorldSkills UK, and I'm also completed a foundation degree, which led to my employment as AAS Global.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk to sort of the industry experts first, and then we're going to hear the real story from the youngsters, okay? So, Rosa, how can engineering compete with other sectors to attract the best talent into a manufacturing plant? I know part of your previous speech was on that.
Yeah, so I think it's important that, you know, we've really got to change perceptions at a young age. We've got to get into primary schools. We've got to start making it a career of choice, and say that we can do so much with primary school teachers and young children at that age, where they can sort of see the opportunities. So you've got to start making those changes then, especially when we're thinking. We've talked today about diversity and inclusion. We know that the research tells us that by the age of 12, a lot of, particularly girls, have decided science is not for them, and so they've already switched off. About half of girls will switch off to science at the age of 12 and 13. So we've really got to excite them in primary schools as to what the opportunities are, where science takes you, what can you do with it. And actually, primary school children are wonderful little engineers. They're always solving problems. They want to build things. They want to find out how things work. They have so many questions. So let's really link that into engineering to excite them. And let's support those primary school teachers who really won't understand what we do with engineering, about how they can actually make a really exciting classroom if they start to engage in engineering opportunities.
Okay, then do you think parents have a role in this as well? You know, parents want their kids to be lawyers and doctors, and rather than engineers, which has the sometimes the reputation of, you know, get someone to fix my boiler rather than doing exciting things.
Yeah, it's a complex space to be in, isn't it? Because there are so many different things you can do as an engineer, from fixing the boiler through to, you know, designing new technologies and coming up with problem-solving ideas. You know, we've got so many challenges facing us in terms of sustainability, embracing new technology, building productivity in the UK. And I don't think those things always connect for parents in terms of what the opportunities are. As you say, you know, we all know we're engineers. We know that everything we do is probably been designed by an engineer, everything we engage in our day-to-day lives. So we do need to change the perceptions of parents. I think we've gone some way. I think we're having a different conversation now about apprenticeships, particularly with the growth of degree apprenticeships. I think that's starting to become a genuine alternative. And as Amazon said earlier, now we need to come down and get the entry routes in at apprenticeships and make sure we've got really clear pathways. So we're starting to see some changes in terms of parent perceptions about apprenticeships. But we really need to get that message out there in terms of you know, that apprenticeships are well paid in engineering as well, because sometimes that's not always understood.
Okay. Scott, in terms of your work at Gambika.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on it. So getting in there early, I think that's the key piece. So we are sort of working with younger people in the industry and getting them to go into schools and talk about sort of what the opportunities are in industry. And I would say, you know, you might not necessarily want to go and work on a production line, but studying engineering gives you so many opportunities. There's so much sort of transferable skills there that you can take into anything. I think, you know, trying to compete with big tech at a later stage is extremely difficult, but we need to be there and working alongside big tech to get people to study STEM so that the pool that we're pulling from is bigger. It's not sort of trying to poach people from other industries, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So you three obviously made the decision to come into it. So I'll start with you, Olivia. So you came in, but give us some background as to your routing, because some people might not have heard you earlier.
So mine, as I said earlier, is through actually working on the line as like a picker or packer. I was able to actually see engineering in the flesh and what they do, and how it can be utilised and how it can make such a difference to the productivity of such a big company like Amazon. If a conveyor was down for 10 minutes, then they'd already lost like 50k units for the day. It had this implication, that implication. So I saw it from the operations perspective first, and then I did have interest in science through the medicine route previously. So my mind was always open to science. Luckily, it wasn't shut off like what it can be. But through seeing it in real life is what sparked my interest in engineering, because I do think you're very right, Rosa, in terms of engineering being fixing the boiler and more household, small, contained jobs rather than the massive scope that engineering does have that now I'm fully aware of. So I do think the narrative of what parents maybe push onto their kids, or what primary schools push onto the students, or secondary school does need to change and become more widely educated as to what can be possible within engineering.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, so tell us about your story coming into Scorpion or whatever.
I went a little bit of a backwards and forwards route. I went to university and did a degree in something completely different, and then realised I didn't want to do that as a career. That's not what I wanted. So I then had to go back and think, right, what do I actually want to do? And I was thinking then about things in school, subjects that I enjoyed, and talking to other people about their careers, and jobs that I'd done, thinking what I liked and didn't like. And I thought, you know what, I like making things. I like having something tangible that I've done. I like problem solving. And then I was looking at job adverts for software engineering, and then found Scorpion Vision that way.
Okay, and so they've supported you since you've got to them.
Yes, yeah. So they were really good. I sort of went in and said, I've sort of taught myself a bit how to code, but I don't really know anything else about manufacturing. But Paul, my manager, was like, well, that's fine. All we need is for you to be keen. And we can teach you what you need to know, which was really good. And that made me think, right, okay, this is where I want to be.
So you did that yourself rather than being encouraged in any way through school or college or whatever?
Yes, yeah. At school, I didn't really know about engineering. I think awareness in school was such a huge thing. I didn't know that was an option back then, so I didn't know that was a route I could have taken. So I had to sort of go back and have a look again later.
Okay, so your experience, Jason?
I was very fortunate. So as a child, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. So I sort of took that, and I did a BTEC, and then took the BTEC to do a foundation degree. And I really enjoyed that technical college aspect, able to actually get my hands on with things, messing around and actually able to play with the machines and stuff. And then that sort of led to my employment currently. Obviously, I'm also with WorldSkills, and that was a massive part of what I do now. That was an aspect I never even knew about up until I actually went to college, and then that was sort of an option. And yeah.
So that was your college giving you WorldSkills?
Yes. So that was through Northern Regional College in Northern Ireland.
Okay. So I don't know how many colleges actually do WorldSkills or whatever. Is that common, or is it?
A mixture of both. Most colleges will offer it in some variety, but as of which courses they can offer, it very much depends on which college you're attending.
Okay. Interestingly, Northern Ireland do very well, and they've got a really good setup. And actually, the devolved regions have got much more successful teams than England. Just as a, but the institutes of technology are looking at how they can come together to support some of these more advanced skills. So we've got robotics, Industry 4. So some of those. The Asian countries are doing a lot better than us in the competition. So we're looking at how we can help colleges to coordinate some of that and support people to engage with it in a way that is working well in the devolved regions.
Okay, brilliant.
We've had a question come in online. This is a message that's coming online for Scott and Rosa. Olivia mentioned how her head teacher had expressed their disappointment that she'd embarked upon a career with Amazon. How much responsibility should schools be made to bear in promoting STEM careers and engineering as the UK continues to fall behind our European competitors?
Yeah.
We've had someone else go, great question. So whomever sent that in, well done.
I do think schools should, they do bear the responsibility. So the Gatsby benchmarks, which were introduced in 2014, or mandatory in 2014, they require sort of careers provision to be available in schools. And I think making sure that the people that are giving that provision have the knowledge on engineering and an up-to-date knowledge as well, and making sure that they can share the opportunities and they aren't biased in any direction. That's I would say schools have a role to share the opportunities and let the students make that decision. Make it, share what you can do. Let's say you go into engineering, you study engineering. This is everything that you can do. If you do this is what you get. So I think it's more just having a conversation with the kids, understanding where their sort of affinity lies, and then helping them on that journey.
Sorry, should I just? So I think it is really important, but I think we also need to look at what drives schools to do the things that they do. So it's always important to look at what drives behaviours. And so we need to involve the Department for Education in this, because schools are measured on the number of students that get into university.
Yeah.
That is going to drive some of their behaviours. Next week, there is a report coming out evaluating those Gatsby benchmarks and the impacts. It'll be interesting to see what we learn from that. But I also think what we're looking at the moment in terms of the new government is how do the devolved regions respond? So the West Midlands Combined Authority, if we are looking at this region, West Midlands Combined Authority are looking at the Careers and Enterprise Company that also work with schools on Gatsby benchmarks, and how can they make that work better for the West Midlands? So we do have things to work on. It isn't just on schools, it's around that wider ecosystem they're working in and looking at how they're measured and how that drives their behaviours as well.
Okay. Do you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, I just want to build on that earlier point because I was chatting to Olivia in the break. So my name is Peter Milligan. I specialise in career development and developing emerging leaders. Coming back to the issue around schools, I think there's a couple of things. How do we educate the educators to understand? Because many of them have never been outside the education system. So how do we make sure they understand? And I've said to Olivia she has to go back and see her ex-head teacher one day and say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I earn, I bought a house by the time I was 21, blah, 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 so that the teacher wakes up, that it's not the end of your life if you don't get into university. The second part of that is what's being rewarded, because I sense that schools are measured by how many of their students go to university.
Yeah.
And that's considered to be, you're a really good school. And I think you've got a systemic issue around incentives and rewards. So they're actually wanting to push their students to university. And I've got nothing against university. Both my sons have done that. But I don't think you need to go to university to have an incredible career. And so is there a systemic issue we're working against in the education system?
Okay.
I think that is changing though, and we can sort of see, and so you touched on it, so we can see that apprenticeships are becoming more valued. And I think sort of a generation ago, apprenticeships were kind of looked down on a little bit, and that is changing. I think it's important to say that we are doing well. Like, we are getting more kids into STEM, we are getting more kids studying engineering. Yes, we need to do more, but we need to make sure the teachers have the skills and the confidence to be able to have those conversations with kids.
And it's the real stories that bring it to life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the real stories. Yeah. It's when an Olivia goes back to the school and says, this is what I've done with my career, and then she becomes a poster child for the school, showing what else is possible. Yeah.
I think also, I know from previous discussions we've had at someone from Cranfield is saying it's actually difficult to get teachers who can teach the engineering skills. They've also got a shortage of technical people who are going to go into education as well. That is a real issue.
And it isn't just engineering, it's science as a whole. So we've just opened a sixth form centre at my university to support A-level students, and we are inviting schools in to use some of our science facilities because they have poor practical facilities and they struggle to get science teachers. So that then means that if you haven't got a very good science GCSE, it makes it even harder to get into a STEM career. I heard Dawn Bonfield talking on Radio 4 about whether we need a science A-level. So if you do your double science GCSE, which is what a lot of young people do, to then go into a single science A-level is very difficult. And so you're almost cutting people off, and it's often by the postcode and where they live, not necessarily by their ability. So if we could have a general science A-level that would open science up to more people and be more accessible, that might be a way of keeping these routes open for longer.
Sure.
I think just the point on the teachers as well, so being able to teach at FE and HE level, it's a real problem. We were in a House of Commons committee where they were talking about the future of FE, and they were saying that they can't keep their lecturers because industry can pay more. So if you have somebody with the skills to be able to operate in industry, it's a difficult choice for them to make, to say, well, no, I'm going to work at FE, I'm going to earn less money to be able to support the future of the industry. We need to support those people. They need to
There is a proposal at the moment, a pilot, which Warwick Manufacturing Group, are linked to the MTC, are looking at. So we know that the sort of armed forces, if you've got people in your workforce that want to spend time working in the reserves, employers have some tax benefits and they need to support those people. So there's a proposal from Warwick Manufacturing Group. We need something like that for FE, where you've got some benefits as an employer to release people in your workforce to go out and teach in FE to support the next generation.
Oh, good morning, everybody. My name's Craig Holdback from a company called Destaco UK. I left school at 16 and did an apprenticeship here in Coventry. My first 2 years were at Henley. First year was full-time, where we had to clock in and clock out. So it was like a factory. You did a month on turning, milling, grinding, fitting. Then I did another year at Henley, just doing a night. Then another 3 years day release, so you did 1 day at college, 4 days at work, 1 night at college. I think Henley's all boarded up now, waiting to have houses built on it. I then went to Bark up the Butts in the centre of Coventry and did my own CH&C in mechanical. That's now a Premier Inn. I travel around the UK 4 days a week, and I've never seen so many opportunities for kids to get into engineering. I'd say probably 85–90% of all the factories I go to are either after design, electrical, mechanical or maintenance engineers. I believe in apprenticeships rather than uni, 'cause that's the way I went. Uni wasn't really an option for me. I think my question is, why don't you utilise people like myself who have been through the mill and would love to put something back into it? Because it really concerns me that in 10 years, if manufacturing ever does come back to the UK, there'll be no one here to do it.
So do you think you have a responsibility to contact a local college to your business?
I've done some work with Myra over in Nuneaton, where we had 70-odd kids come into the into the centre there, and
would that have helped you three, if you'd have had a local business inviting you in to?
It wasn't just me. There was about 20 people.
No, but you know what I mean. If local business manufacturers actually invite people into their facilities instead of
most definitely
shutting the gate the whole time and not letting anyone in, would that help? Would it have helped you three? Start with you, Jason.
Absolutely. Industry involvement is massive for engineering. Engineering is such a wide aspect that nobody really understands what it is because it's so big. So being able to understand what each company does sort of gives kids the idea of what maybe they could do in the future. So industry is massive.
Olivia?
Yeah, I would agree. And I also think it's hard to know exactly where you want to go in your career if you don't hear from what people have done. I think you can't imagine yourself doing something unless you see people like yourself doing that job, or you hear people's experiences, what they did to get to where they needed to be, because a lot of the time there's just so much information. But if you sit down with someone that's willing to teach and explain and share their experience, you can take so many pointers from that of exactly the steps that you need to go down and who you need to contact and the sort of qualifications that you should expect to earn to be where you want to be in the future.
Okay. And Catherine, would that have helped you, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would have fixed that awareness issue that I had of the industry. If we'd have been able to do work experience in these places, actually find out that was an option, that's an opportunity, you get to see what it was that happened there, and if you liked it, then you'd be able to choose to go down that path. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll just say as well, a lot of school kids think engineering is a dirty, horrible environment, where it probably was in my day. You went into a factory.
That's because no one lets them see a new factory.
Well, yeah, that's what we should do. Get old farts like me involved. And
I mean, literally, if every manufacturer in the country invited the primary school up the road from them into their factory, wouldn't that be a step
factories
forward?
and foundries in the Midlands that do that.
You've been so Amazon do that.
Yeah, we have loads of site tours with various different primary school ages. There's a dedicated team that walk them around, and I think you just see the look on their faces like, wow, I'd never expected Amazon to look like this, or a warehouse in general, because a lot of them do look the same. Between companies, they do often look very similar. And I think for me personally, when I was first envisioning engineering, my dad was an engineer before he retired, and he came home smelling of beer every night because he worked in a brewery. I'm like, ew, no, I don't want to smell like a beer factory. Like, oh. Or working in a steelworks, coming home covered in like soot and just rubbish. So I think there is loads of different industries within engineering, but there's also so many others that are not that dirty, covered in mud and
well, hopefully
dust
all food
and
factories.
Yeah, well, yeah, you want a clean environment, some people, and so I do think that the misconception is massive, and I think for those primary school children that I have seen myself walking around, their faces are just, they're blown away by what it looks like.
Yeah.
And I think it is a great thing for them to see so young, so they don't have that immediate idea in their head that engineering is purely messy work.
Sure. So, Scott, let's move on to trade bodies now a bit. So
We've just got a couple of questions just to back up from what you've just said, people writing online. So Andrew Ward from LinkedIn has just written in and said, you've hit the nail on the head. It is all our responsibility to provide exposure to the various engineering roles and contribute to developing a curriculum suitable and relevant to a modern manufacturing world. Just to add to this, I know you've got an agenda. We've got two more questions. Is it related to what? Yeah, so can we just continue with a couple of questions? Thanks, Gail.
So, you're talking about there's a shortage, and we know there's a shortage, yeah? But at the moment, like the STEM field, in basically any type of education in STEM, it's the highest graduate in UK with 26% compared to anything from medicine to law and everything else. But the problem is that at the moment, most of the young people want to go into something that's flashy, as you said, Rosa, something like Formula One or something like this, or something where they can make money fast, like social media marketing business, where they don't really need a skill or a degree or any form of education. My question is, how can you make, or what would you do to make engineering more flashy, more, you know what I mean? So you can actually attract kids.
Yeah, what would have attracted you, Jason, if it was?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Working alongside like older engineers would be like a massive thing. Being able to really understand what engineering is. It is very much an understanding thing, in my opinion, because if you want to be an engineer, you'll be an engineer. If you want to be a doctor, you'll be a doctor. It is sort of those people who don't really understand what that is. You need to really be able to give them the options and understand properly.
So does it need to be something almost like the Scout movement had Bear Grylls for a while, didn't they? So Scouting went berserk, and loads of more people, because it was a bloke who was active, and it wasn't just an old duffer in a uniform. Would we need David Beckham in engineering, or do we need, I'm trying to think of a female that I would be attracted to, but no. Would that make a difference if we had more ambassadors for engineering? Do you think?
I think it could help, yeah. I think
Get on Question Time, or on, to be part of the mainstream. Would that have made a difference? You three are quite dedicated anyway. Scott, what do you think?
I think it is, though. I mean, you see some YouTubers, like engineering YouTubers, building things, solving problems, and I think that's a fantastic way to reach out to those, to kids who maybe are leaning more towards the flashy tech industries. But I think engineering has a sort of an issue. People look at it and think, oh, dirty grey. Maybe we need to rebrand entirely, applied innovation or something a little bit more flashy. But I also think any of those students, you need to make it matter to them. You need to say, right, think of a problem that bothers you. Now think of a solution. That's engineering. It's solving problems. So how do you go about that? And you can work in an industry that does that. I think making it matter to them is really vital.
Yep. Hi, I'm David Harrison. I'm the curriculum leader for higher education at Newcastle College University Centre. And I mean, we have a lot of students who have a good experience of coming through us and get into engineering employment fairly quickly. And they're not really that bothered if it's flashy or not. They go to some pretty uninspiring engineering work, if you like, if they're making plastic films or whatever, but it's good technical work. But I see two real problems. One is just getting those links from industry coming in. And I talk to employers all the time, and they say, yeah, we can't get good people or whatever. You know, what we need are warm bodies. But also the number of people who are actually teaching in engineering education. As the gentleman over there was saying, we need more people that have worked in industry and then come into education. Now, I did that. I mean, I was in industry for 35 years before I started teaching. And I can do those stories that are linked back to, here's where I've done something and got it hideously wrong, and this is why, But we also see a massive amount of staff turnover, and trying to keep people in education is actually quite hard. I mean, in the 10 years I've been there, there's been 265% staff turnover.
Wow.
Yes, and that's partly because of the pressures that are put on people in education. And I think there needs to be more of that link made to get some of the old and the bold to come and stand there in front of students and take the massive pay cuts and all the rest of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think,
but that needs to be worked on more. And I think the more that industry works with colleges and universities to say we need more learning by doing, rather than here's your PowerPoint, here's the whiteboard or something like that, and actually have projects given to students to do from industry, appears to be working. And I'm very fortunate that I've got a number of companies who have done that for me. And I explain to the students, you're on a 30-week job interview.
Can I touch on that? Because I think it's a great point. So within Gambika, we saw this exact issue. So we had students coming out into industry saying, I can't get a job. And then we've got industry saying, we can't get people. I'm like, well, there's some disconnect here. So we started to get universities as members of Gambika so that we could help bridge those gaps. And we've seen it work incredibly. I think what we found is with industry, it's just starting that ball rolling. That's the hardest piece. And as soon as you start a relationship between an industry member and a university member, that relationship builds, and then you start getting guest lectures, you start getting master's level projects, the PhD sponsorships we've got now, visiting professorships, which gets rid of the problem of having to try to coax people to move from industry into education. You can do it side by side. You can have visiting professorships. So I think it is doable. And trade associations probably, we do have that responsibility to help bridge those gaps. And honestly, we've seen it work incredibly well with the universities and industry members that we've got.
I certainly think Automate UK have been, you're heavily involved in the Automate UK, aren't you? Charlie, your best organisation, and how's that helped you?
Oh, massively, yeah. I mean, when I got the job, Automate Best came in and sort of said, welcome to the industry, which was really nice, because like I said, I didn't really know much about manufacturing. They offer grants as well to apprentices and people that have apprentices, so they can help you out financially. And they've also really helped with stands that they do at events to sort of say, do you want an apprentice, helping get young people in, or they go to even working with schools. So universities.
Building a network, isn't it? Sort of, so you've got a little alumni of apprentices, so you're not just suddenly, oh, we're a little apprentice. I'm one person in a team of 15, Yeah, so that's worked well. I think there's another question from
there. All it was is a comment online. So people like Guy Martin, James May, Kevin MacLeod, Hannah Fry are all great ambassadors for science and engineering. So thanks for the comments coming in online too.
Indeed. Right, so let's move on. So we've looked at trade bodies, and we've kind of looked at education that we're not quite, they have a lot on their plates, don't they? Small manufacturers have it, or big manufacturers, especially after the last budget, they've got a lot on their plate. But let's look at, what are your expectations, you three, when you started your apprenticeships? What did you think was going to happen, and has it delivered for you? I'll start with you, Olivia.
I was sort of under the illusion that it was going to be very, very, very intense, to the point I wouldn't be able to keep up, to the point where I thought, I don't know, I would get kicked off the course because I was awful, or that I just somehow wouldn't be suited to it. But I feel like the support that we have through both the training provider and my employer is just unmatched. There's constant communication between them all, checking up on how we're doing, constant checkpoints of our like skills matrix, so that we're fully compliant with everything that we need to be. We're fully competent. So I feel very well looked after. I don't feel as if I'm about to fail at any second, and as if I'm out of my depth anymore. It is, yeah, the support is just amazing. I just thought I'd be left and that I don't know, eventually fail. So I think now I'm more comfortable in the role and what I'm learning, and that I'm on the right track. So
Brilliant.
I think that was unexpected.
And Olivia?
I didn't really know what to expect to go into the apprenticeship. I wasn't sure what the sort of ratio of learning to working would be. I was worried that maybe there'd be all learning or all working, but it's actually a really good mix of the both, because the stuff that you learn on your course, you can then implement at work, which really helps to sort of solidify that learning. But also at the same time, you're working with people that have been in the industry for a really long time, so they can tell you sort of exactly what you need to know and give you those industry-specific skills that I think education alone might not be able to if it's a bit
Sure,
broader.
if it's because they've got the experience. Or
Yeah, definitely. And also being able to work on actual projects. I wasn't sure if they would trust me to do anything for a while, but they actually did, and that sort of experience of actually doing work is a big confidence boost, and it makes you feel valuable.
You're meeting customers on projects and liaising.
Yeah, and going to sites and helping with support requests and things. So it does make you feel like you're a part of the team and that you can actually see yourself in the industry working there, yeah.
Because I think historically apprentices, they're a good idea, and then they get there and, oh, can you make the tea and sweep the floor and get me a long wait or whatever, you know, that kind of attitude. But it's good that we've moved on. Jason, how's it been for you?
What I found really interesting was how much my opinion was actually appreciated, and how much industry, like, they really appreciated the new, different perspective that they might have had from before. Especially with me with WorldSkills, I had the automation perspective that wouldn't have been in the company before, and then whenever I entered the company, they were like, "Wow, I didn't know you could do that," which was really, really great to be able to actually like be important, and that's what I found was the biggest difference.
Fantastic. It sounds like you've all had brilliant experiences. And in terms of career progression, is there anything that you're looking at now thinking, or because we hear about Gen Z, you know, oh, well, they'll only stay 5 minutes and then they're going to be off, and they're going to be, you know, because all they want is the money and they won't work hard and they're all useless and whatever. I just say that as a parent. But are you looking forward? Can you see yourself forward in this company, or you're well equipped for the next company? I'll start with you, Olivia, because you.
There's both. So in an apprenticeship, they prepare you for the industry as a whole. They, particularly mine, they want to focus on retention and keeping me once I've finished my apprenticeship, but they prepare you for the knowledge that you could use in any other engineering industry. But I was saying earlier that as much as you can have like career prospects and you want to go to the top, there is so many jobs now, that don't exist yet. And within engineering specifically, that is such a major thing, that is such a benefit, is that, yes, I want to be successful, I want to go this level, this level, this level, stay within Amazon, but there is so many jobs that don't exist within my company, but then also everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I could sit here now and say I have this dream within engineering, but the constant evolution and the constant progression, a new role could be there in 10 years' time that is crazy for me to even think about now, that potentially could be my job. So I think that is very rewarding and exciting to think about as someone that does want to be successful.
Sure, because, you know, historically people trained to be a welder, and 30 years later they retired as a welder. Yeah. You know, whereas now they train as a welder and then they're moving on to something else or something else. Olivia, what do you think you're looking forward? Catherine, sorry, I was looking at Olivia and I spoke to you. Catherine.
At the moment, I'm just really enjoying doing the job. I think you can't underestimate the job satisfaction that you get from it, and just that I think is enough to stay in the industry. With my particular company, they offer like so many opportunities for further learning and trying out different things.
Yeah.
So I think that where I am is a good place for me to stay, to keep learning and progress my career that way.
Okay, well, I'd also like to point out to the audience actually that, Amazon, massive company, lots of opportunities, but you're working for an SME who is providing that for apprentices in their business, which I think is important, because I think SMEs quite often, we've got no money, we've got no time, we've not worked, and look, if SMEs put the time in, you could get lovely people like this in your business. Jason?
At the moment, I'm very happy what I'm doing. I work for a very small company, so I get to do a lot of different things that most would be multiple different jobs. But the big thing for me in engineering is how vast there is and how much you can move about the place. And it doesn't matter what your degree is, it's what your experience is. Like I qualify as an electrical engineer, but I'm doing mostly mechanical stuff, and you wouldn't expect that if you're like a doctor. You couldn't really go into a veterinarian kind of position. So
or the other way round.
Yes. But that's sort of the big thing for me. It's lifelong learning. It's constantly learning and going forward.
Okay, thank you. Rosa, do you think this government is going to make any difference? Let's throw that in there.
That's a big question. I think the difference we're seeing is that they are listening. They want to hear from industry. They want to hear from FE colleges and universities. So, it's very early days. I think Tom said earlier, it's hard to see where we're going, but they seem to have the right intentions. They do want to consult. They genuinely want to consult and listen to what we need. So I would hope we'll start to get some more clarity in terms of how they're going to apply that industrial strategy, how we as FE colleges and universities respond to that, how we link everything together. Be interesting to see how Skills England develops and how they start to influence some of the decisions that we're making in the skills space.
Okay. I think there's someone else with a question.
There is, thank you. Catherine on LinkedIn has asked a question. Should student pipelines be rewarded to motivate businesses to invest in apprenticeships as a skills stream, tax breaks, etc.?
I'll have a go at that one. So I'm going to do a little plug for T-levels while I talk about it. So please do engage with T-levels. So I think T-levels were mentioned earlier, and it's a really good pipeline into apprenticeships. It's a good try somebody out in the role before they come in as an apprentice. And engineering T-levels are one of the most challenging T-levels to get the number of placements that young people are demanding. So engineering T-levels are really popular with young people, and colleges are struggling to meet the demand with placements in industry, particularly in manufacturing. So please do speak to your local college about whether you can offer T-level placements. But I think that's part of what the government's talking about in terms of listening. So there was going to be quite a fast pace in terms of switching off BTECs and just solely relying on T-levels. And the concern from the sector, the FE sector, is that that would limit the number of vocational learners that could study engineering, because there is a limited number of placements. So we're hoping that they might slow that down a little so that we can really ramp up the number of placements that are available. T-levels are a brilliant route into apprenticeships as well as university. But unless we have really good quality placements, we're going to actually reduce the number of 16, 17-year-olds who might be able to study engineering. So all of that needs to be taken into account. And I think that's where the tax breaks and things like that, the current government might look at doing things like that, how to incentivise industry to engage in things like T-levels and work experience and supporting schools and colleges and universities.
I do think on that, I think some consistency would be valuable for industry. I think it's hard for industry. Obviously, they want to engage in everything, but when there's so much going on and so many changes constantly, it's really difficult to say, right, we'll put all our efforts into here.
Yes, and I think I guess that's the other thing actually we're seeing from government. So I was with the West Midlands Combined Authority last week, and they're talking about 3-year financial settlements, and we're used to 1 year and not knowing what's going to happen the following year. And so the more that they can provide that stability for the sector, the more we can be clear with industry as to what's available. At the moment, as a college, in my FE college role, I don't know what qualifications I can deliver next September, and that's because the government have picked up some issues and they're trying to fix them, and they're going to tell us in January. We can't operate like that, and we don't help industry by operating like that. So yes, I think there is a wish to create this sort of 3-year plans as opposed to 1-year plans, which we know are not strategic and means that we can't really respond effectively to industry.
Yeah, I think having a long-term sort of education plan aligned with the industrial strategy over a longer term, ideally cross-party, but we'll see what happens there, would be really beneficial.
Because we haven't had a strategy, have we, for many?
Yeah, we had an industrial strategy, and then that got ripped to pieces, and now we've got a new sort of proposal for an industrial strategy. So it's going in the right direction, and I think sort of things are being set up within government to be able to support that, so that industry and government are working together on that. And then Skills England obviously is there to support that from the education piece, but they need to be aligned.
Okay, so any more questions from anybody else before we wrap up? Because I don't want to keep you from your lunch, because that's not a good thing in a.
We've got a question.
Hi, I'm Joss. I'm a second-year apprentice in a manufacturing company in Birmingham. My question was just genuinely on how experience from learning in an apprenticeship has benefited you overall, why young people should be going into that looking at experience rather than going into university and possibly coming out as a postgraduate without any experience and struggling to get into industry that way. Just wanted to see your point of view from that and how that has benefited you three as, you know, in apprenticeships right now or in your first year and your second year, so on.
Okay, I'll start with Jason this time.
Very simple, relevant experience. I have co-workers who are both uni graduates and degree/foundation degree students, and the difference in actual knowledge and what they're doing is night and day. Most university students struggle to really understand what machinery can do, but what I find in apprenticeship programs, especially through colleges and such, you get to work hands-on with the machinery, and that really helps to build your experience.
Thank you. Catherine?
Yeah, I think that apprenticeship has helped massively. If I did a sort of straight software engineering degree, I think that would have been very different to how I use software within manufacturing. There's lots of other things besides the software as well that I do, which I wouldn't have got if I just did a degree. That came from working in the industry and working with people that knew what they were doing and had been working there for a while.
Thank you.
I think there is a huge difference between actual hands-on knowledge versus what you get from, say, a textbook or a slide or like theoretical. Things can look very different in real life versus just in a hypothetical situation. There's loads of anomalies that can occur. There's loads of there's a lot to say for being able to apply the knowledge that you learn in college with something that actually happens in real life, and to be able to actually, I don't know how to describe it, but I know you touched on it earlier, Rosa, where you were saying that it fully is the hands-on difference, is actually doing the work rather than being able to say how you do it word for word. And I think that is really priceless, especially say for like a 4-year apprenticeship. You come out with all of the knowledge over 4 years in your head, but you also have 4 years of hands-on experience doing the job. You've been doing the job that you then get paid to do as a fully qualified tech by the end, just while studying. It kind of comes along the side of it, just topping itself up as you go through the years. And it's almost like this free, it seems cringy to say, but like a superpower at the end that you have versus someone that's sat in a lecture hall or in a library studying for 4 years. It is just a huge benefit of an apprenticeship, in my opinion.
And you haven't got 50 grand of debt.
Yeah, oh, and that as well, yeah.
just put that out there. Anyway, we're going to have to wrap up now.
We are, but we've got a couple more questions coming in. Yeah, okay. It's too good. Right. Ronnie from LinkedIn, we received a call from our local college yesterday about T-levels. We were unaware of this before. Is there a way that that information could be readily available?
I mean, the government have put an awful lot of money into advertising and promoting T-levels. There are central government pages with advice on what a T-level, and you can go through that government website and they'll link you up with your local college as well. But we know there's more to do to get the message out there, and also to sort of make it easier for employers to sort of understand what's going on in that space, and get, you know, so not every employer is run by 5 or 6 different colleges wanting those placements. I think we need to do more in that space to coordinate that engagement.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself last time. My name is Adrian, and I'm an apprenticeship first year at Amazon. Yep. I had a question for you guys. So in China, I know this related to sports, yeah, and in Asia in general, they go and pick up kids in school. Yeah, they test them and stuff like this. Do you think like more competitions, private competitions or stuff like this? I just heard about the World View competition just because I'm here. Yeah, I didn't hear in previous year because, to be honest, there's not much exposure. That's the problem. Like, you need to think that kids have their phones in their hand non-stop these days. How can you change this? In my opinion, I think if you would have had more competition, private competition made by companies, and you use social media for exposure, you would attract a lot more young kids. Because the phone, as Elon Musk said, it's part of youth these days. You're with the phone everywhere. So in my opinion, this would help. What's your opinion about this?
So I obviously work with WorldSkills UK and WorldSkills globally, and actually WorldSkills UK have just launched they're asking whether it's employers or providers to put forward ideas for regional skills competitions. The first one's going to be in Exeter, but they're looking for people to apply, put in expressions of interest. They recognise, obviously, the World Skills competitions, they're the top competitors with their medallions of excellence working at international standards. How do we build that up and build the interest and the competition? So they are asking regions to think, what can you do in your region with schools, with colleges, to create those regional skills competitions. So hopefully we'll start to see some of that coming through.
I think it's a great point. I think you do need the education institutes on board to be able to do that and to be able to deliver those competitions. Usually, there are obviously some that are outside of schools, but I think it's a fantastic point. You know, why not reach the kids, you know, directly and give them the agency to be able to go to their education institution and go, look, I think we should do this, because actually, you know, a lot of the time teachers and schools don't have the capacity to be able to go, right, we're going to look for something else to do. But if that request is coming up from the kids saying, we want to get involved in this, can you make it happen, please? I think that's a really, really good idea.
One of the competitions I did as a kid was First Lego League, and that was one of my major entry points into engineering. Was, I know it's Lego, but it's still being able to understand, like, problem solve and plan around different perspectives. That robotics sort of led me into WorldSkills, and I was completely unaware WorldSkills existed until I went to college. That's sadly not told enough about, and I think that's a massive sad part, because it's a massively good program. The skills I learned through WorldSkills is beyond what you would get in industry. The levels of knowledge I have in FANUC systems is what you'd probably get over 5 or 10 years of experience in industry. WorldSkills is one of the best things I've done, and I just wish more people can get into it and more people knew about it.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much to the panel, especially you young people, because I know some of you were nervous, and there was no need. So thank you very much for coming to the event. If you want to hear about it afterwards, we'll put it on our website, and there'll be a white paper and stuff. It's ukautomationforum.com. So please, thank you very much for attending our talk.
Okay, thank you everybody, and I just wanted to echo what Gail just said, that it's a big deal for all of you to come up on stage today, and thank you to Gail for hosting. Okay, so it is time, it is lunch, thank you Gail. It is lunchtime now, 12:30. If you are watching online, we're going to be taking you on a tour around the exhibition halls now. If any of you can't make it again tomorrow, then please feel free to watch online on the channels, on FANUC's channels and MTD-CNC's channels, so you can watch some of the discussions that are happening tomorrow. Thank you for joining in today, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning back here.
And here we are on the Scientech stand. I'm here with Grant. Now, Grant, we've got a world's first to show you today. What is it?
So yeah, this is the FANUC CRX10. It's going to be the first robot in the world that is explosion proof. Well, the first collaborative robot that is explosion proof. So we're basically looking to integrate these robots into spray systems for various different products.
Brilliant. And you can see that right now this one is not explosion proof yet, this one that we're showing on demo, but you've got a little model here showing that they will be silver, the explosion proof rated ones, and they'll be coming out from FANUC very soon.
Yeah, so we've not got the explosion proof robot here on demonstration just because it's not available, but yeah, we're showing here just that the robot can spray things like alloy wheels, etc. The idea really is here that when the materials that are being dispensed by the robot and by the spray system, they can give off fumes. So the robot from the solvent-based materials. So the robot needs to be explosion-proof to prevent it from causing a spark, obviously causing a fire within the cell. But yeah,
that's fascinating. I've never heard of anything that needs to be explosion-proof before. We don't work that much in automotive spraying applications like this, so it's fascinating to see this kind of application for robots. As you described, though, before, industrial robots used to have had explosion-proof ratings for quite a while. What are the benefits for employing a collaborative robot like this? And this is more, are these applications you're seeing more in the industry at Scientech?
Yeah, so that's a really key aspect of the spray system. So we're trying to work into some smaller end users that maybe don't want to fully automate, but they want to automate alongside manual operators. So to be able to use a collaborative robot allows the operator to work alongside it, maybe doing some of the more unique spraying applications, and this will do some of the more mundane, repeatable activities that are within the spray booth.
Yeah, and you can imagine here it's kind of on a bit of a line on an spraying some alloy wheels in this model, but in the actual main model, you can see it's kind of doing different styles of components. You might do like a one-off testing. I guess this might help for prototype automotive components or one-off, bespoke, high-end maybe, where you might want to just set it up with the dead man switch and then leave it running, maybe just to do a two-off.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the big thing with obviously robotics and with Scientech is that we are very flexible and the robots are very flexible. They can be reprogrammed. So one day the robot could be doing part A, the next day it could be doing part B, and so on and so forth. So that's the real big selling feature of using robotics. Obviously the real feature of selling collaborative robots is they typically are easier to program. They can work alongside humans, which typically an industrial robot needs to be in a guarded enclosure. Which we are also involved in at Scientech as well.
Because you do a lot of industrial projects as well, not just kind of the collaborative side.
Yeah, we do. The majority of our exposure so far to robotics, which is a history of many, many years, 20 plus years integrating industrial robots, but we are just sort of moving into the collaborative integration now. Obviously it's a big market, and with our expertise in lasers, inkjet, and material spraying like this, including water-based and solvent equipment, I think collaborative robots have got a really big market and an important role to play at Scientech.
Brilliant. And the world's first collaborative robot that's available for explosion-proof spraying applications, and I guess lots of other applications need an explosion-proof robot as well, will be available soon from FANUC with Scientech. And now, safety first, we're here on the Oikner stand, and Mark, there's a huge range of products you managed to fit on this little table, and customers are really, it took us ages to get over here. Customers are really busy. Yeah. What are we looking at?
So we're looking at safety automation, and in effect, it's two halves. So I'm going to call this classic safety, so this is what we would normally
And now safety first, we're here on the Oikner stand, and Mark, there's a huge range of products you managed to fit on this little table, and customers are really, it took us ages to get over here. Customers are really busy.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
So we're looking at safety automation, and in effect, it's two halves. So I'm going to call this classic safety. So this is what you would normally see on a machine: interlocking devices, access control. So for example, this product here is a guard locking switch, very safe and secure, and we tell it when we want to enter the hazardous area, and we give it an unlock signal. Linked into that, we can have different levels of access, so not everyone might have the competency or the training or the skills to enter a machine. They might do some basic functions, but maybe a maintenance operator has a different level. So we have these electronic coded keys that we can assign a different level of access. So different functions and functionality can be enabled or disabled depending on the skill set. And if we're in that hazardous zone, so we're in there, we might want to move things around. Often, automation is that we can move things around, we can clear jams. So products like an enabling switch. So we can control the hazard, there's a center position on here, and if it's a robot cell, we've also got a little joystick here so we can move things around, manipulate it, but we're controlling the hazard, so it's done very, very safely. And if we were to come into contact with a hazard, we let go and the machine stops.
Absolutely. How important is it to automatically control what people can do to different levels as well in a hard way, not just say, oh, Dave, would you mind not touching that part of the robot?
Well, that's really important. So we might have specific training on how to access certain parts of the machine from a clearing or a maintenance point of view. How to change tools, for example, is done by a specialist person. But even just at basic level, we often see passwords that are used to get into different parts of the system. Those passwords get abused, unfortunately. They get written down on the side of HMIs. So this clears all that issue up. Recipe as well. We might want a different process being loaded into our automation, which is managed by the key. So different recipe selections. Traditionally, that would have been done by an HMI and an operator. There's an error risk, so we can take that error risk away by automating it with a key that's pre-programmed.
Absolutely. Okay. Cool. So is this part of kind of traditional systems? We've seen manual auto keys on a lot of CNC machines before.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to say traditional. So we would have a controller of some sort, whether it's a standard discrete relay or a configurable safety relay, bringing those inputs in as part of those safety functions into our safety-related control system. It tips into safety automation because we're now getting some intelligence. We're bringing lots of different devices in based upon the risk assessment to address those hazards and reduce those risks. The next generation is we need to have the data. So we might want to know how many times a machine's been interacted with, how many access points are being opened and closed, how many times an e-stop's been triggered. So linking in or flowing into what we call safety automation. So this rig has a safety PLC in the base. To communicate to that safety PLC, we have a comms module. So this comms module would sit either on the machine, it can sit on the outside of the cell or in the control cabinet, and it would have the safety functions connected to it and communicating over an Ethernet network. And that's the key thing. So it's a reduction of wiring, so there's no traditional hard wiring or terminations to be made. It's all done at the controller, so it's all in one place. So from the integration point of view, the software engineer can do his process safety, his non-safety I/O applications all in one space. The benefits are that we can now get into solutions where, for example, if we want to enter this cell, we could have a coded key system. Okay, we call this key in pocket or an authorization system. So the rig now is saying, well, we're now safe to enter. So it's unlocked my cell. Okay, I as an operator can now safely enter that zone, and I can transfer my key into a second reader to be able to use enable controls to control the hazard. So I'm in control of the hazard. Now this could be clearing a jam, it could be repositioning a robot, it could even be one of the robot controllers in the cell. Okay. The key message is that the machine won't inadvertently start up because the key's in the second reader. And if I got distracted and was crouching down in the cell and someone was walking by, they can't restart the machine. There's no way the machine's going to restart. So I'm bringing an extra layer. Now I'm using my safety automation to do that. It knows where the key is. It knows all of these I/O points. It can capture all that data. Once I've finished, I can exit the cell, and return and start my machine.
Brilliant. So now red meaning the hazard is now active again and working, right, yeah. And no one's in there, there's no key in there. I guess the traditional way of doing this might have been like an isolator with a padlock.
Yeah, So it doesn't replace those, it actually complements those. So the handle mechanism itself, we have a padlock mechanism, so you can still put your traditional hasps, padlocks, complementary safety measures in place for lockout, tag out onto the locking module. So you've still got that level of security, but it's just adding that extra layer of automation, making sure that we know what's going on, where it's going on, and why it's going on.
Yeah, and it means if HSC are coming to do an audit, you can prove to them you've got the logs that show that this is exactly how we handle safety in this hazard.
So it might be that you have a weekly test of your e-stops where you can track all of those, how many times was that operated, what time it was operated, produce a report, blend that into SCADA systems on site. So if you've got a large production cell, you might have a problem area. Why are people going into that area so frequently? What's happening there? So you get the data to drive insight into, well, let's see what's going on and try and correct that before it gets to the stage where someone gets injured.
Perfect. So safety, one of the most important, or the most important factor when designing automation systems, and you can go from traditional to full safety automation with Oigner. Thank you, Mark. And we're here at the Zimmer stand, as always. Richard, you brought so many products. We've covered quite a lot of these in technical corners, though. And there's a huge amount of innovations come from just this year at Zimmer HQ as well. But we unfortunately, we don't have much time to talk about all of these. What do you want to talk about if you were to pick one product?
Yeah, so today I'd like to focus on end-of-arm tooling for industrial robots. So this, for example, is a gripper typically used for machine tending. We do it with a standard angle flange, with the holes pre-drilled for mounting of the gripper onto it. Then do a lot of accessories like the adjustable jaws for gripping of different part dimensions. This flange, though, is designed so your tubes can feed through to make the management a lot easier onto the gripper, so you don't get any problems with pathing at all. And then we do accessories like the small nozzle there, for example, so you can blow off the vise after changing. This allows for load unload, so you can take one part off, rotate round, load your blank into the machine, and achieve less robot movement, so more efficiency with running the machine.
Yeah, and it makes it so much quicker to automate components when you have two grippers, not one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is also an example of an electrical version we do. All of our electrical grippers are clean room certified, but this one, for example, is another nice example of CNC machine tending solutions we can do, with also the adapter plate built into the angle flange, so that just fits straight onto the robot, all pre-drilled and ready to go.
And as you said, clean room certified for the electro grippers. Both grippers, though, they're really built for what is quite a harsh environment inside the machine tool as well, aren't they?
Yep, so these grippers are high IP rated, so IP64 is standard on the gripper here. This one has a cover and slide plates, so the internal guides aren't exposed. That prevents any material from getting onto those and thus achieving long life. So 30 million cycles, maintenance free. That's our statement on these particular grippers.
And that's brilliant if you want to take on automation can be quite a difficult challenge, especially when you're trying to make things run smoothly and consistently. So knowing that gripper is going to run 30 million cycles, it's going to last a good number of years, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's to make sure the lifetime's there. So that's 30 million cycles. Another big area for us is also gripper systems. So, for example, on the backdrop here, there's a few examples of the sort of industries where we're doing complete gripper solutions. So this is utilising our in-house design team. We can do a complete bespoke built end-of-arm tool for a customer. Each on the display there comes with their own individual part number, full documentation, and we can take care of just that element of the project. So we work closely with integrators, end users, to bring these to market.
Absolutely, and they're amazing. I mean, these obviously you can see alloy wheel, tyre here, engine block. These are obviously a little bit too big to put on a table like this. It's a shame you couldn't bring one along. But these are all designed, produced, and manufactured in your fantastic and actually pretty impressive production house in Germany.
Yeah, and the nice thing about these as well is it's so the engine block gripper, for example, ever so small changes can then be made to suit handling different designs. This is a gripper that we've done. We're one of the market leaders for this particular gripper, and you'll find our gripper systems in use around all the automotive plants around Europe and also the UK.
Absolutely. So being so leading in producing these quite complex grippers, that means that also you're supplying not just the whole systems, but also little parts of those modules as well to people who want to design their own.
Yeah, so some of our people, integrators who we work with, they build their own grippers. So a new area for us we're offering more is the system components. So for example, the free-jaw gripper there, we can provide just the bulk frame of it, and then customers can put their own fingers on, they can use their own motor to run, to open and close. As well as the engine block gripper, we've got swivel jaws on the gripper there, so you can rotate a part round. That typically would be used on a gantry, where you don't have the freedom of what a 6-axis robot offers, but it allows you to pick up the block, rotate round, place it down in different orientation for another machine, part of the machining process.
Absolutely, and that's really important for, I guess, operator ergonomics as well, so they can move a component without having to lug it around and do lots of manual handling. I've just spotted also a little bit of battery cell management as well.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of solutions also in the area of battery cell handling. The gripper there, so that's for picking up There's I think it's around 80 individual cells on.
Let's not try and do the math, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I was just looking at the numbers, but it's around 80 individual cells. That's a magnet gripper, which we've designed specifically for the cell handling. So we also offer that as an individual item, which people can then build into their designs. And it could even just be handling an individual cell, or it could be an array with some pitch adjustment and placing them into the finished pack.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got a huge range of components from Zimmer, not only as finished products, but full systems designed bespoke for you, and also in the middle for integrators who want to build their own kind of style of grippers for a huge range of applications. That's Zimmer here at the FANUC Open House. And here we are on the Insphere stand. Mike, you've got a really interesting demo to show us. What are you showing off here?
Yeah, so we're Insphere, we're a robot metrology company. We have a camera system here that is using infrared photogrammetry. So we're tracking objects within your automation cell, and doing that we can update the position of the robot and have a more flexible automation cell by updating the part frames.
Yeah, perfect. And you're going to be showing us a quick demo. You've got 3 of these cameras, and these will be tracking what exactly?
So the cameras track the retroreflective spheres. We've got tiles on the table, on the blue part, and on the end effector. So we create a datum point for each frame, and then we can measure against that. So we can measure where our TCP is in relation to the part and the table. Typically, your robot will know where it is in relation to its own base, but it doesn't know where it is in relation to other objects in the cell.
Absolutely. And what's the benefit of this over, I guess, more traditional methods of aligning components up for operations?
So when we move the component in the cell here, the camera system knows the exact orientation of that part, so the datum point remains the same. If we had an end-of-arm camera, say, the position of that part it will change and the robot program won't update from that. So if we then need to go in and inspect something, we have to manually update where that part is.
And that would mean you have to come in and probably probe the sides and get the right angle of orientation.
Sure, you'd either probe or manually jog it to the start position, so we're reducing the manual alignment times, and in turn we reduce cycle times in automation cells, typically automotive and aerospace industries.
Brilliant. And what kind of applications are we looking at? Right now you're kind of looking at follow tracking a slot, so what does this represent and what else would you be able to do with it?
So we're mimicking a slot path here at the minute. That could be 3D printing or a weld path, something like that. We can also emulate aerospace drilling. So if we come into the holes in a minute, we will see the program sort of come into just above the hole position. We then measure where that is, and then we correct the position and perform the operation.
Brilliant. And when you've got everything managed here, so you've got the kind of the work table, the component, and the tooltip, you see everything in the software simulation as well.
Exactly. So everything gets fed back to our software system called Aura. We take the data from the spheres and the frame data, and we can get red, amber, green indicators on how well the robot part adheres to the robot program. And we speak natively to KUKA, FANUC, ABB, various other robots as well. It's a completely robot agnostic system.
Yeah, I guess here FANUC is preferred though.
A FANUC is preferred here, yeah.
Fantastic. So just to round up, what would be the benefit of being able to put a component down and be able to walk away from it without clamping, without any jigs and fixtures, for automotive companies and for aerospace companies?
Yeah, so in automotive, things are on the move a lot. Having multiple metrology systems in place is really beneficial. You can use a system like Iona and coincide that with end-of-arm cameras as well, so you can define where something like an AGV is in that cell, and then you can use data from other systems to drive to more advanced positions and processes, essentially. With aerospace, the drilling side of things that we're trying to emulate here is quite critical. Ollie talked about this yesterday in terms of where we need more accuracy in aerospace, and need more accuracy in aerospace. So a system like this, we can check where that position is before we perform the operation, and then correct it to those aerospace tolerances, typically sub 0.3, 0.2 millimeters.
Perfect. So helping lots of different operations achieve better tolerances with a quicker setup time. That's Iona now powered with FANUC technology. And we're here on the OnRobot stand. I'm so far away from Christian because there are so many products here on the table to look at. And we're here on the OnRobot stand. I'm so far away from Christian because there are so many products here on the table to look at. Christian, OnRobot are known for easy-to-use, collaborative and light industrial applications, end effectors. What do you want to show us today? What do you want to focus on?
Sure, so today we're showing our range of tools and end effectors, general handling, screw driving, sanding, that sort of stuff. We have basically a stand today just to show a range of our tools, how we work, and how easy it is to integrate with a robot. So
let's get to it. You've also got kind of standard connectors on all of the hardware. Is that a really big part for OnRobot?
Yes. So everything follows what we call a quick changer principle. So our format here. So everything follows this same format. So you mount the tool, you mount the quick changer onto the robot. This is a hex sensor, but it follows the same pattern. So as soon as you're on, you connect, and then you're up and running.
Easy as that. And this would just be screwed in with a standard flange.
Sure. So it's seen with fans. With FANUC CRX in particular, you have the short cable connectivity. You load the plug-in, and you're straight away, you can program the robot and build your application.
Yeah. So whether it's gripping with a 45-degree two gripper or a sander, they all use a similar connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see, everything follows the same format. As soon as you've got it on, you're up and running, and you're good to go. The quick changer is your key. You mount it to the robot, you load your plug-in, and you can quickly swap between tools and start going.
Perfect, right? So that's a really nice overview of the of the product range. You've also got a demo to show us as well. Integrate with a FANUC CRX. What are you showing?
Yeah, so basically to follow on from the discussion of the ease of integration, we've got a 2FG7, for instance, on here. We can show our quick changer tool mounted onto the robot. We then have the short cable connectivity, and then we're showing a very simple program. But basically, we're looking at here where we can bring functions into the teach pendant directly, and we can do things like grip, we can move the product, and we get full feedback. We can say, is there a product there? Is there a product not there? What sort of force, what sort of distance I'm working at? So from an integrator perspective, it's easy to program, it's easy to use. They can drag and drop their functions in and start going straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you've integrated directly with OnRobot with the CRX control software, you've got all the controls right here, all the parameters. You don't have to set any odd parameters up in a different screen. It's all there in a single block.
Exactly. So long gone are the days of having to program a new tool in each time you need to bring in something new, you're running a new application, or we go from there.
Yeah, perfect. So OnRobot, trying to make it easy to develop collaborative applications with a huge range of grippers. Yep. Thank you so much, Christian.
No worries, thank you. Cheers.
And welcome to the MTD CNC podcast here at the FANUC Open House on Wednesday 2024. I'm joined by, today is the education day, so I'm joined by three. Were you all apprentices? I'm joined by one, two, three. Yep, three people who've been apprentices, and I guess you've all passed now?
No,
not yet.
We're still in it.
Are you? Oh, wow. Well, congratulations, for I know you're going to pass it. And I know Jason's just done his foundation degree, but I need to introduce your guests. So we'll start from left to right. Olivia Lane, introduce yourself, please.
So I'm a second-year mechatronics apprentice. That means we basically study mechanical, electrical, and a bit of robotic engineering. So it kind of covers all fields. And my actual job role that they're training me into is to be a reliability and maintenance engineer. So I essentially have to perform proactive maintenance, so that's preventative. We have a rota that comes through of all the maintenance tasks we have to carry out on all the machinery, but then also things do just go wrong randomly, so then we play more of a reactive role. We have to sprint over to something if it breaks down and try and figure it all out. So yeah, it can vary massively.
I can't wait to see you in the running safety boots. So
yeah, yeah. Even though there's no running in the warehouse, but it's really? Like a slow-mo. A slow-mo.
Yeah, there's no banana skins, I hope.
Yeah, no.
Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, sounds like you're already ready for your job, really.
Yeah, they're training me to be.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you, Olivia. And so we've also got Catherine Ray. Is that right? Yeah, so give us a bit of background about yourself, please, Catherine.
So I'm in the first year of a software engineering degree apprenticeship. That is to train me to be a machine vision engineer. So we basically do, if like a robot say needs to see, or a production line needs to do some quality inspection or something, then we would do the vision part for that. So that's what I'm going to learn to do. So same sort of thing, reactive. If something breaks, we would do support calls, but we also make systems as well for companies. So they'll come to us and say, we need this, and then we'll go and we'll make it, and we'll program what we need to make, and then supply that for companies.
Yeah, it's really cool. You work for a company called Scorpion Vision.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess computer vision is quite an interesting thing. I guess there's a lot of, you just take pixels in and you somehow have to turn that into this part is of this size, or it's this kind of part, so you have to categorize it, measure it in some way. It's a really interesting kind of job, I guess. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's great. There's sort of two parts. There's like classical machine vision. So if you know what the part's going to look like and it's going to look the same every time, then you can employ certain techniques, like looking at the pixels, checking for differences in color, things like that. But then if something's going to be different each time, if you've got like an organic product, like a lettuce, for example, then you would use neural nets, machine learning and AI, which is really interesting. So it can find it each time if it's in a different place. Still using pixels, but different techniques.
Interesting. So if you've got to check a lettuce, you need a neural network. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've learned something new today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, brilliant. And Jason Scott here on my last but not least. Please give us a bit of an intro. Who are you?
Hi. So I'm Jason. I work as a design engineer for a company called AES Global. I completed a foundation degree in electrical engineering. But also through my college, I as an ex-competitor for WorldSkills UK in industrial robotics. In which I got a Medallion of Excellence.
Brilliant. Is this the medallion you're wearing right now? The WorldSkills 2024.
Yes.
I'll bring that microphone a bit higher.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. But WorldSkills medallion as well. You're showing very proudly, so I can't even see how you spell your name. That's perfect. And so there's WorldSkills happening right now, and has been happening yesterday and tomorrow as well. And I guess those people, you know what they're going through right now.
Yes. So they are at the stage I was at 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In this factory as well, doing my nationals. So it'll be good to see what level they can compete to, so we can go forward further on, so I can teach them alongside my team leader.
Amazing. So you'll be working with them if they go through? Oh,
Yes.
fantastic.
It's very much intergenerational, so one generation teaches the next.
Brilliant. You'll be like, oh, this is a tough one now, guys. no stress, no pressure. Did you go to Singapore then? Is that where, or that's where it's going to be next year?
So next year is in Shanghai.
Shanghai.
Sorry, 2 years from now it's in Shanghai. Next year's in Denmark. I was competing in Lyon in September this year, and then last year I competed in Gdansk for Euros, which I also got a medallion in.
Wonderful. Great opportunity to travel as well. So if you're an apprentice, I guess, or even education as well, you can, any of the people, young people watching this could have a look at WorldSkills and maybe try and join a local
Absolutely.
local team.
It's definitely worth trying.
Well recommended?
100%.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Nice. And then let's move on. We now know our guests. Olivia, you were presenting today.
Yeah.
a little bit about it was about your apprenticeship and your journey into engineering. Could
Yeah.
you kind of tell us a little bit about that, please, for those who didn't catch your talk?
Yeah, so I really wanted to focus on the point that I didn't always want to do engineering. I had a completely separate dream of medicine, and that was so solid in my mind that that was what I wanted to do, that then when that sort of failed after several attempts, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And through the narrative that was pushed to me in education, it was almost like an apprenticeship was like a no-go. It was almost like I was a failure if I ever did an apprenticeship. So from that perception from school to then go into the workplace first before ever entering engineering, that narrative really changed, and my eyes were open to the world and the world of work and how valuable an apprenticeship actually is. So I really wanted to consolidate that in my presentation, that I didn't always want to do engineering, that's fine, but I'm here now and I am so eager to learn and become a great engineer that was all irrelevant really, and that the narrative does need to change within schools, that an apprenticeship is almost like a second-class option to university, because as great as it is, there is so many other routes and they are all just as equally good as each other in their own right, and I could still be qualified up to a degree level, and further I could become a chartered engineer if I wanted to by the time, I don't know, whenever I want. I mean, the opportunities are always open, they're always endless, and the world of engineering is always changing, and that was one thing I really wanted to highlight in my presentation, is that you really never know where you are going to end up, but you'll end up in the right place regardless.
Yeah, definitely. I think apprenticeships are definitely seen as a bit of a fallback option.
Yeah, exactly.
If the first one doesn't go right, you kind of almost, well, I'll go to this uni
Yeah.
instead, or I'll just do an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, but that perception is probably incorrect in, like you say, the opportunities are endless. It's just another way
Yeah.
into everybody ends up in a job.
Yeah,
So whether you
especially
go-
with the rise of degree apprenticeships as well. Mine is a level 3 apprenticeship, which is still also looked down on, but there is degree apprenticeships that you can transfer onto, you can enter into a degree apprenticeship. There's so many options where you are also going to be studying alongside people that went straight to university. You would just have that slight advantage of being sponsored by an employer and your university fees taken care of. That is the only real difference, is that you still get the hands-on experience, but you are side by side with your peers that are also at university, should you go down that route.
Yeah.
Which is great, really.
Brilliant. And Catherine, I'm interested, since you're still doing the apprenticeship, what for you, what was the catalyst that made you decide to end up on the path that you're on right now?
So I, much like Olivia, didn't know that I wanted to be an engineer, and went down a completely different path and went to university and got a degree. And then when I came out of university, I was like, I really don't want to do that as a job. That's not what's for me. So I had to go back and think, okay, well, what do I want to do? And then I did a few sort of odd jobs and spoke to other people about what they did. And I thought, well, I really like problem solving. I really like contributing to making something, something that, you can see it, it's sort of tangible, what you do. And then I spoke to somebody who did software engineering, and they said, well, if you like doing that, you'll love software engineering because it's problem solving. So I thought, right, okay, I want to do that, but I can't go to university because I've already done that, and I can't afford to go again. So how am I going to get into an industry knowing nothing? And that's where an apprenticeship came in. I thought, well, they're going to teach me from scratch. I don't need to know anything beforehand. And I'll get experience at the same time. They'll fund a degree for me. And they'll support me along the way and give me that, experience that in the industry, which is really, I think, important to have and really helpful to have.
Absolutely. I think you touched on a point about engineering being quite tangible. The things you do actually have a real impact in the world, which is probably not quite obvious when you're in quite an academic context like a university. You don't see how. I remember when I was doing like a foundation degree in engineering, we had a maths module. Someone put their hand up like, "What's the application of this?" And kind of like people who like maths would be like, "Oh, why are you asking that?" Obviously, there's no application. Obviously, but in engineering, you would never ask that. You would say, you'd say, well, we're trying to pick up some pasta because we make 100 bags a minute. We're trying to pick it up and stick it in a pallet. It's like, well, people need to eat pasta. That's why we do it. So there's really obvious impacts and really obvious benefits to almost everything done in engineering. Otherwise, it would not exist. So I don't know what you think, Jason, about. Is that what guided you to this kind of this industry?
I was very fortunate that I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. I was that kid who had less actually working toys and more dismantled toys. So that sort of always led me.
You were dangerous with a screwdriver.
I was dangerous with a screwdriver. It was
Gosh.
more rocks at that point, though.
More what rocks?
More rocks.
Rocks, right?
Yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
smashing things.
Oh, really? Like geology? Oh, yeah, okay. Using the rock to smash
Yes,
something. Not you interested in the rock itself.
No.
Okay. Just
no,
as an
no
implement.
thanks for rocks. No. But yeah, no. I always wanted to be an engineer, and I did a BTEC, and then went on to a foundation degree. And going from my secondary school was very much like, do not touch BTECs, do not touch apprenticeships.
Really? That was
It was like,
okay. That was the attitude.
University or nothing.
Yeah.
So me going to do
You were a rebel.
I am.
You
an
really
absolute
were.
rebel,
Look
yeah.
at this. I love it.
So me doing through the tech was purely based on there was way more hands-on experience. I was
not with rocks.
Not with rocks. No.
They
With
moved up a
screwdrivers this
level.
time, I actually moved up on that.
Yeah.
So being able to actually work with machinery was like a massive like, wow, I want to do that. So that's what really led me to what I wanted to do today. So
Yes, yeah, brilliant. There's definitely a visceral feedback from making something work,
Yeah,
whether it's a CNC
exactly.
machine tool or a robot or
It's
or
like
a
an
piece of
instant
software.
reward, really. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not quite
completely.
like math calculation.
No, yeah.
Physics paper. No, thank you.
No, we want instant. We can
Dopamine
see
hit.
it. We can see it in our works. It's great.
Yeah, is that something you all share, do you think?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And when it comes to the education side of things, the apprenticeship, learning, there's still quite a lot of stuff in the classroom. How did you all find that? What was your experience?
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. I like having that day out to learn something and it being maybe a bit more relaxed. You're just taking time to learn new things. And then meeting people who are doing similar things, seeing where those skills are applied in other industries, seeing how the same skill can go to different places, and then applying that at work to solidify that knowledge.
Do you find you might bring things back that actually people on the shop floor, you know, do you find there is like, you bring something back from the classroom that actually helps you in the workshop that you didn't really know about last week, for example?
I think so, yeah. For me, definitely when writing code, you then find out about things like keeping that code neat and tidy so that other people can then look at it. So if I was writing really messy code one week, and then somebody else had to have a look at it, and they'd be like, what the hell is going on here? And then I'd have that university week of, okay, it needs to be neat, it needs to be readable, have comments and things. And then the next week they'd be like, oh, Catherine, I can understand what's going on here, and it makes
You can see the progress.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. Nice one. And Jason, so do you think there's a bit of an overlap? Could you pass over the ideas out, I guess, from a messy code to clean code to a messy workshop to a clean workshop? Are there other aspects of education you think you could draw out of what you've learned from your foundation degree?
I find quite a lot, whenever I moved into actual work, the big difference was I had co-workers who were like, I had no idea this could actually work. I work with a lot of older people, so they're very much like, I can't be bothered with this, new ideas, no thank you. But then whenever you finally do show up with your new ideas, they're like, wow, this is amazing, this is great. Especially with my also doing WorldSkills robotics, that means I have a whole different facet of knowledge I can pull from. So like you were saying about clean code, tidy code, making sure everything's tidy, that was very much a requirement in WorldSkills, is you must be tidy, you must keep organized, to the point where now I'm completely OCD at work.
Yeah.
Everything is organized and rigid and all that stuff, so it's made a massive difference personally.
Yeah.
That's my sort of perspective.
Brilliant. So having an impact on the workforce that's another satisfying factor, is maybe changing a little bit of the culture, pushing it in a slightly different direction to what maybe if you come into quite an old company, not in terms of people, but in terms of the age of the company itself, that company culture can be quite ingrained. And I guess coming in as a new face, it's nice to have new people coming in, but also there might be a resistance to change that you can work with and you can play with and see what you can do about it.
Culturally, I think there is this sense that this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way it has to be done. It can't be done any other way. But then through the introduction of apprentices and the new knowledge that we're gaining, I think it's also it's welcome that these pieces of not advice, but our suggestions are very welcome, which is great. But it also provides a completely new insight, like what you guys were saying, into the way we do things is slightly changing, they're improving, they are becoming more streamlined because we're bringing these new ideas in to the workplace that people that are there day in, day out for years and years and years on end, they've always done it that way, so why would they change it? It's almost like it's not broken, so we're not going to fix it. It's all right, we'll just carry on. But then this whole innovation of, well, it could be done better, so why not try it? And my employers, specifically Amazon, are very open to continuous improvement. Let's just try it out. See if the metrics match up. Is it improved? Yep, great. We'll implement that across all Amazon sites. So it is really, really welcome of that change of culture.
Okay, interesting. And when it comes to engineering, a change in engineering culture, some places, I know smaller places that cannot measure productivity in an easy way, maybe make a change and intuitively it feels right. Let's change this work holding because it's not a nice device to work with, for example. I'm taking a simple example. But in Amazon, being such a big company that is obviously quite a digitized and digitally aware company, is there a focus on those metrics? Is rather than being focused on culture, we focus on output, what are the results of what we do? And do you think at your company, is that a big focus? Is we actually measure the impact of something?
Yeah, every implementation or every shift, there is metrics that come from it. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, there is data constantly being produced. So every change implemented, that data is immediate and it's constant, and that data is then analysed to see, has that change had a positive or negative impact? Is it no impact? Is it impartial? And I think that has a real benefit to engineered solutions and the evolution of the business and the productivity and how successful the business is, because there is so much past data that then once something has changed, you can notice an immediate difference and then you can measure the trend going forward. So I think that is invaluable, and it also helps stimulate our ideas into how to make changes and how to improve various areas and downtime and loss of productivity and loss of units. And obviously then you want everybody to get their parcel next day on Prime, so we've got to work to that. We've got to make sure.
Is that the biggest thing? If someone misses it, there's a big
absolutely,
red buzzer goes off.
That's it. Yeah,
there no more tea break today.
Yeah, there's several times of the day where a certain number of parcels have to leave the building, and if that doesn't happen, we have to do a full deep dive as to why that's occurred. Wow. And then if it is an engineering issue, we then need to figure out the problem and how to fix it. And our knowledge that we gain from college and the training centre and that side of our apprenticeship is almost the freshest information that we're bringing to the table. So it is very, very valuable.
Yeah, and if it's a computer vision system, that's a little bit slow, go to
Catherine.
She'll speed it up for you.
We have a speed dial.
Exactly. And Catherine, is there anything, talk about software is a different thing to trying to improve an engineering house is a different thing. You've got to change work holding or change the speed of robots or the way the machines will run or a process. With software and developing computer vision, is there some kind of continuous improvement attitudes in software in the same way that we kind of have lean engineering and continuous improvement in engineering?
Yeah, I think definitely. Because it's software engineering within a manufacturing environment, always looking for ways to improve the efficiency, because if we can work faster, if we can inspect something faster, then the belt can run faster. And if the belt can run faster, then more product can go out. So they're always looking to improve and make things quicker. So always looking for ways to improve. And I think Scorpion Vision is quite good in that they are quite keen to get young people on board because of what we were saying earlier about those new ways of working and taking that from education and what people in education think would work and trying it out to see if it's better, see if it works.
Yeah, absolutely interesting. And AS Global is what do you think, Jason, about measuring impact of continuous improvement and whatnot, stuff that you'll be learning and you've learned at university?
So less so in that direction, more so I, as a design engineer, I obviously am designing new products, I'm designing new improvements. Being able to pull from university, from college, obviously WorldSkills as well, being able to implement how to build things in a more manufacturable way, massively helps. So I can design things in ways that makes it easier for robots to manufacture, which then means that the company can again go in the future and
do fully autonomous manufacturing. That's sort of the major thing for me.
That's a good vision to have. It's an interesting vision. Can I, we've talked about how good it is being an apprentice, how enjoyable it is, and I guess the benefit of the time at work and the time at school. Can I ask maybe a difficult question and ask maybe, having spent that time at work, is there something you think the educational side of things maybe lacked, that you wish you'd have known, you wish you were taught earlier, that you maybe had to learn by experience rather than the classroom might have been missing?
Yeah, I think it's almost like your driving lessons and your driving test is that you learn how to drive a car and you learn how to pass your test to then make you qualified to drive your car. But the amount that you learn once you've actually passed your test is, you just can't even imagine, you can't comprehend it while you're learning. So I still see that when I go to work now, I'm still learning things on the daily that when I was, because we had a full year in college before going on to site, so I'm now learning things on the daily that now I'm just like, I could never even comprehend that I would learn this much stuff every single day, when in college it takes 3 weeks to learn one module or one topic. It is just that. The experience and the knowledge that comes hands-on is far, far more than what you learn in the classroom, and it's just how it is in an apprenticeship sense. I think in any sort of education sense, it is just how it is that when you do the job, you just learn it so much more in depth. And that is something that I didn't quite believe before doing the apprenticeship.
Interesting. Anything else?
But at the same perspective, you also can't drive a car until you get taught how to drive a car.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think that, getting that basis is really, really important, and then being able to apply that and just like, wow, that's why I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It just clicks immediately.
It does, it clicks into place.
It just makes perfect sense. And what I find with my college is I'm able to go back to my lecturers and go like, yo, I've got this problem at work.
Yeah.
What can I do to do this? And they would sit down with me and talk to me, right, well, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that.
Yeah.
And it's been a massive help being able to have that collaboration between both the college and the company. And I think that's probably one of the most hidden things about what's beneficial about an apprenticeship is there's that bond between a college and the actual employer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference that you're doing the learning for something as well. When I did university the first time, I wasn't learning it for any particular reason. It was almost like I was learning it for the sake of learning it.
Yeah.
And that, like, the motivational jump for then learning it to actually do something is really big. Suddenly now I'm much more engaged because I'm thinking, okay, I can apply this here and I can use that at work, and I think there's a thing at work that needs this sort of implementation.
Yeah.
So you do put more energy into it, and you see the benefits from it and the rewards from it as well.
Yeah, you're right. There's a staggering amount of motivation you get from like a grand vision of, we're gonna have fully autonomous manufacturing. We're gonna have, the fastest computer vision algorithm in the world.
Yeah.
And I guess Amazon wants to make sure that everyone gets Prime next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
The motivation of
and
all of
same
those.
Day.
Same day. And same day. Let's not forget same day. Royal Mail is available too. But there's just so much motivation that I think that's linked all of you guys together.
Yeah.
That means you're expected to learn so much more, and you can achieve that because no one learns every FANUC parameter because they find it fun.
Yeah.
So there will be a few people in the world who will.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I'm not one of them, I'm afraid.
We've got to represent those.
But people still do, even if that's not the interesting thing in of itself, because what it allows them to achieve.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the important thing. That's why we all find this part of engineering is exciting. Robots behind big glass cases doing interesting stuff. There's some really not very interesting
Even
parts.
on a small scale, though, it's the same principle, and it's applying that knowledge into real day scenarios to get a reward of it being fixed or it working better or running better.
Exactly. So yeah.
That is the thing about engineering. It's very tactile. You see that you see the change. It's not theoretical.
Yeah.
It's physical.
Physical
it's right there.
Yeah. And if you can't see it, you've done it wrong, so you've got to start
again. Exactly.
Perfect. I think that's a really nice place to leave it. Thank you very much, Olivia, Catherine, Jason. I really appreciate your guys' time on the podcast. That's been the MTD CNC podcast here at FANUC Open House. It's the educational day here on Wednesday, and we just love the motivational vision that all your companies are working on, and everybody here. It's still a busy day. Make sure you come down here tomorrow if you can make it. If not, make sure you stay tuned to MTD CNC, to our seminars, panels, discussions, exhibitor tours, and also another podcast tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.